Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the show. Holy crap, I'm excited to be here. A little bit of a funky start there. Yeah, wouldn't be a new show without a little bit of an error there to kick things off. Anyways, welcome to the Breakdown with BreakyCPK. I cannot stress enough how excited I am to finally be here, and this is a piece of content that I've honestly wanted to get going for a pretty long time here, but it's awesome to know that here we are, finally here, and excited to get things going. So, welcome to the podcast, guys. Welcome to the Breakdown with BreakyCPK. I know I thought about the name all by myself. Now, it's definitely a name that, there's been people that have brought it up before, and I'm like, you know what? It just makes sense. So let's go ahead and make a podcast show with that name. Anyways, guys, so the show here. So what is the Breakdown with BreakyCPK? Well, it's a Dota 2 podcast. That's in its simplest form what it is. Now, can I go a little bit further into that? Sure. Let's go ahead and do that. What I really want this show to be, it's honestly going to be a lot of I draw my inspiration from sports radio broadcasting. From a lot of that, obviously I got into casting in the first place through sports radio broadcasting. And what I want this show to be is kind of a, inspired by sports radio talk shows. For those that may or may not know how they work, it's essentially a lot of these sports radio talk shows are, it's a mix of obviously going over a lot of content, a lot of things that happened within said competitive scene. In this case, focusing on Dota 2, obviously, and the competitive scene, but it's a lot of, not only going over it, but also kind of, more lighthearted, more having fun, do some fun segments, interact a bit with your community, with your viewers, and also a mix of bringing on people, in case experts, as I like to call them, bringing on people to talk about said topics, and also bringing on some interview guests. And for those that may know already, been tuning into the social media and made a Reddit post there and everything, I do got quite the list here today that, especially for my debut show, I was not expecting it to kick off like this. As far as who I'm looking forward to bringing on, but we definitely have quite the panel that I'm excited to bring on. Again, you saw in the beginning image there. So first things first, a couple things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about, of course, ESL Genting 1 here very shortly. We're going to be recapping that and see what happened. But not only that, but also talk some stats perhaps, and kind of just have fun with some discussions there of ESL 1 Genting. We're also going to be joined by Peter Pandam, the one, the only PPD, will be joining us in about a half an hour from now. He'll be talking about not only his new team and Team Wanted, of course, and what their future holds, and what he thinks about some discussions that have been happening with that, but also being the CEO of EG now and what that means. And I'm looking forward to kind of sitting down with him and picking his brain as far as what it's like to be CEO now, and maybe some specific questions there. So on top of that, we're also going to be joined by Biver. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I know it's one of those names that I feel like I've always had trouble pronouncing. I believe it's Biver. Biver going to be joining us from Na'Vi, one of the newest members of Na'Vi, of course. So looking forward to having him on. And then we have CartDota is actually going to be joining us as well very shortly here for our first segment for the ESL 1 Genting that we're looking to talk about here shortly. So amongst a couple other things here later on in the show. And also, one more thing I wanted to go over before we start getting into it here is part of the show. I wanted to, again, like I said, I wanted to have interaction with the community. I want to have interaction with my viewers. And so part of it, I want to give you guys the chance to call in, to do a call-in segment of sorts, and to be able to chime in on said discussions. We can kind of have some banter back and forth. Maybe just also making a point on stream right here. And, I like the idea that the field of sports radio shows, and that seems to be pretty popular amongst those. And I really think it could be a lot of fun to do that. Now, I don't know how it's going to go. We'll see how it goes, but I want to give you guys a chance to chime in. So with that said, if you would like to actually throw out some discussions or join us on the show, join myself on the show, I should say, later on, that's going to be one of the later segments I do. then all you need to do is actually whisper me on Twitch with what topic you want to talk about, what basically your question is, or what you want to talk about, and I may or may not eventually get back to you. Again, it's going to be a lot going on, obviously, and you can only have one on at a time. But if you do want to call in and give your opinions or whatever, then there will be a time to do that later on in the show. That won't be happening initially. I'm going to keep stuff like the interviews and stuff for just myself and them, but later on if you want to chime in. Feel free to do so. So yeah, go ahead and just whisper me again on BreakyCPK, of course, on Twitch.tv, and I will get you an invite to a. We're actually going to be doing it via Discord here. So if you are interested, we'll see how that goes. Well, maybe it'll suck, maybe it'll be god awful, but you know what? I think it's worth doing a try, giving it a try in the end. So, how do you whisper? I think you honestly just type /whisper if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's how it works. I'm not even 100% sure myself, but I believe that is that should be how it works. Anyway, so that's something else to look forward to if you want to kind of interact and have some fun there. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into it right here. Let's get into our first topic of what is, of course, going to be ESL One Genting. ESL One Genting taking place here as of yesterday, really. Yesterday it finished up here, and it finished off early on in the morning. They had quite the long day. You can go ahead and edit this real quickly while we're at it. Gonna do some on-the-fly editing. So this is part of the things I need to maybe get a little bit better at with production and everything. There we go. So ESL One Genting taking place, or as Red Eye called it a couple of times, ESL One Genting taking place. Yeah. Anyways. That event, of course, wrapping up yesterday, and we have our winner from it, and that, of course, being the one, the only. Let me go out of this here. DC, Digital Chaos, in case you missed it. Digital Chaos are your champions after quite the grind. Quite the grind. They take home their share of the $125,000 prize pool, though, all going to them. And, of course, second place happening to be Newbie, finishing in that second spot. Virtus Pro and Wings Gaming wrapped up the top four. Getting the third, fourth place spot as they made the playoffs, but coming up just short. So, but those that got the chance to watch it, know that it was, again, quite the grind, especially on the later day. Now, Digital Chaos, they actually had a decent run for most of it. They, of course, caught out of Group B themselves. They took out Wings Gaming, actually, 2-1 in their matchup right there. Let me drag this over here real quickly. There we go. They got out of their group, though, in the end, in that first place spot. And then Newbie, of course, the same story over here. They had to take out VP 2-1, but it ended up being those same teams advancing on anyway. So, yeah, really the top two teams from each group was pretty noticeable from the beginning. There wasn't really any questions, and there wasn't, frankly, any scares in the end. You see even VP able to take out NP 2-0, and then, of course, Execration not able to be much of a challenge there themselves. But as it played out, of course, Digital Chaos, they actually had a pretty easy run against VP. They went 2-0 against them. Got the chance to watch a fair amount of that match, and despite Underlord being picked up both games by Virtus Pro, Underlord, no doubt, a popular hero with this big patch, and VP was a fan of it, but dropping both of those games to DC, and thus knocking them out in that third, fourth place spot. But DC advancing on. And then Newbie, though, had to go 3 games in a grind of a series to actually move on in their matchup there. But then in the end, they not only went 2-1 against Newbie, but they went the distance against Digital Chaos. I should say against Wings Gaming, and then the distance against Digital Chaos. So Newbie actually ended up playing 8 games in a row. Oh, my God. They played 8 games in a row, had quite the grind there, but just coming up short. That's got to feel so bad. So bad for them, but obviously, you got to win them all, and they were even up 2-1 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they were up 2-1 in that best-of-5 series. Bringing it back up here real quickly, as you see right here on Wikipedia. But then the last 2 games, Digital Chaos came back swinging, man, and they made pretty quick work of Newbie there actually in the end, and taking it 3-2. So obviously, Digital Chaos, though, very deserving of the victory there, and honestly, pretty exciting to see them taking the victory right there. The craziest thing that I'm going to suggest right here, as far as Digital Chaos and what they were able to do in that matchup right there, was this was the first official tournament victory for Digital Chaos. Doesn't that sound weird? This was actually the first major, I should say, tournament victory for Digital Chaos. We're talking about a team that it feels like obviously they've been around for a while, but they haven't actually won a big time event. Of course, they came second in the international, which is obviously very very big deal. And even in the Boston major, finishing in that third fourth place spot, but. Ultimately, they did come up short in pretty much every other event as far as winning it all up until this one. So that also has to feel good. No doubt, for this team right here in Digital Chaos. So Digital Chaos did take it in the end, and they are your ESL One Genting champion. So that's kind of the recap of what actually happened with the event right there with ESL One Genting. Let's go ahead and actually bring on my first guest of the day. Give me just 1 second right here. Like I said, I'm kind of getting used. I'm kind of having to do some on-the-fly editing right here as well, so I do apologize with some slight delays right here. But going to be bringing on our first guest, and I'm happy to have him on, actually, to talk about a little bit more about ESL One Genting and what went down right here. So let's go ahead and give him a call. Cart?
Hello.
How is it going, Mr. Cart? Should I call you Cart or CartDota?
You can just call me Cart. It's fine.
Cart. Okay, we'll call you Cart. How's it going, man? How you doing?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm happy to have you on, man. My first episode of the breakdown. I'm excited to have you. You're my first guest, man. You better not mess up, all right?
Feels good, man. Feels good.
No.
Okay, so
okay.
I actually did want to mention something. I see Cal Mace mentions this in the chat just because I'm feeding it really hard. Especially in Game 5, he's mentioning just like newbie always having the ban Meepo. That's just kind of a thing that happens. Like sometimes you just have those pocket heroes that you always have to ban, similar to how Broodmother was back in the day. Similar to how you think back to TI5, like C-Deck versus EG, how LGD always had to ban, or C-Deck always had to ban techies because they couldn't play against techies. Nobody knew how to play against techies. I think it's kind of the same thing. It's always a big factor to have to ban a specific hero, just like Meepo. But I think the bigger factor is, like you were mentioning, they played 8 games in a day.
Yeah.
That is always just a huge mental toll to play 8 games in a day for both series to go to, the full game 3, the full game 5, that kind of thing. I think that's a really big factor, but it definitely has an impact to have to ban Meepo all the time.
Yeah, they not only Meepo, but I believe that they also banned Naga-san, if I'm not mistaken, quite a bit too. It's basically Meepo and Naga were the two bans that we saw newbie taken out quite a bit. But
oh yeah, definitely both of them. But like I said, that's not entirely uncommon, but it definitely gave DC a bit more wiggle room.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, but I can as you're getting at though, I can completely understand where they're coming from. Yeah, the grind that they're going through. Meepo feels like he's just one of those heroes that's like, if we have the choice not to play against him and against a very good player, of course, I believe Weeha for
of course.
DC, of course, very good player with him. In fact, now, funny thing on that, I actually didn't notice that they actually got him once earlier in the tournament, and they lost with him. So their only game they got him with, they actually ended up losing. But it's not even that. It's, as you're getting at, it's more tiresome to play against that hero than
for sure. And just
so.
like, even if it loses once, that doesn't mean that the hero's necessarily not good.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about the big thing I noticed is like a lot of people I'm looking at just like Boston and Genting, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about patch 7.0 and 7.01, of course, there weren't a lot of heroes that were changed. It was mostly map changes, that kind of thing. But there was still a good shift in the meta. Like you still see Luna. There's still an obnoxious amount of Luna. But there's not as much as there was before. Like Luna was most picked in Boston. Now she's like whatever, 7th, 8th, whatever. Doesn't matter. Slardar was actually most picked hero, and I thought that was actually really interesting because he lost a lot. He had 14 matches. He had a 29% win rate. That is a very that was
something's off there.
I've seen a lot of things just like in my time. Like if you consider like patch before TI4, Skywrath was most picked hero, and he had like a 48% win rate. That's because he got picked every single time. He had like almost 1,000 matches.
Yeah.
But a 29% win rate, like, here's the thing. The hero is not necessarily bad, I think, but he was just put into a lot of situations where, like, people thought the hero was too good. I remember one of the Fnatic NP games, the first game, they revolved, like, Fnatic revolved everything on the Ohio Slardar. And they just put, like, they went, like, all in on this Slardar. They're like, our lanes, we need, in order to hit our timing, this starter needs to get his blink dagger, and they didn't do enough to actually make sure starter got his blink dagger
Mhm.
because he's a really good, really, really valued hero. But people think he's almost too good, and they're giving him too much credit. Like in order to, he needs more to succeed than teams were willing to give him, despite him being a very good hero. Is
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, Slaughter seems like he's just a very comfort hero for so many, and he has been for a long time. But yeah, that really is. I actually got it up right now on Dota Buff here, pointing out what you're just going over. Yeah, 14 matches at 28.57. It's very odd to see the top picked hero that low of a win percentage, no doubt.
Oh yeah, for
In
sure.
this tournament. What other thing, kind of going off what you're saying right here, I was actually, looking at some fun stats myself, kind of just doing some comparisons. Obviously, this was the first quote unquote big event since 7.0. So obviously, a
Yeah.
lot of people were really intrigued to kind of see, maybe how that would shift some things. As far as the top 5 banned slash picked heroes between the Boston Major and this, so this event, it was actually Juggernaut, Slardar, Shadow Demon, Luna, and Underlord. Those were the top 5 most banned picked. Now, at the Boston Major, it was Shadow Demon, Alchemist, Timbersaw, Batrider, and Wisp. The only similarity there is actually Shadow Demon, which I don't know about you, but to me feels like I was not expecting to see as much Shadow Demon as far as picked and banned this tournament. He's had a bit of nerfs. It feels like that illusion, quote unquote, meta has kind of been going away a little bit. Were you as surprised as I was?
Not necessarily. Here's the funny thing about Shadow Demon, I think, is like when Shadow Demon first started getting picked, everyone maxed Shadow Poison. Shadow Poison was the thing on him. That was it. It was all Shadow Poison.
Yeah.
Then Shadow Poison got nerfed, and everyone kept picking Shadow Demon, and they're like, you know what? This hero is still good even without Shadow Poison. We don't need Shadow Poison to keep picking this hero. And then Ice Focus, he just like added Illusion Gold. It's like people were like, no, Shadow Demon is still pretty good. Disruption is just that valuable to have, and like
Yeah.
the gold you give away with illusions isn't enough of a reason to not pick Shadow Demon. Like that hero just needs, he needs something else to be changed other than Shadow Poison or for like illusions to give gold. Like he's just still really, really highly contested. I'm not sure what, but it's just like absolutely stupid that disruption is valued so highly. I
Hmm.
think
Yeah.
it's just like it's always good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Batrider.
I also found another interesting stat here. Actually, as far as win percentage goes, there was a couple of heroes, couple on this list right here to me that were really interesting. Quap actually, he was played in 6 games, actually won 5 of them. Centaur was
Oh
the
yeah,
same. Centaur was the same. 6 games, won 5 of them. Quap maybe I expected a little bit more because there's been a lot of time with her level 25 talent, especially. She seems pretty ridiculous now.
yeah.
Centaur maybe a little more surprising. What do you think?
Centaur is like he's like replacement Slardar. I almost think in that
Yeah.
way. They're kind of very similar in a way, except Centaur might be even a bit better than Slardar. I think he's tanky. He goes in. The only difference between them is that Slardar has a bit more reinitiation potential than a Centaur,
Hmm.
because after you like kind of double edge, you might be a bit low, a bit uncomfortable with yourself, whatever. Um, but I'm like he got picked 6 times. I'm not very surprised by it. Queen of
Yeah.
Pain I actually really was surprised by because a lot of times, or at least what I thought was there's these cool level 25 talents. Oh wow, fantastic. How many times you actually see heroes get to level 25? And Queen of Pain, at least not the matches I watched, like she didn't get to level 25 that often
Hmm.
or at all. I don't remember to be honest. But I just like I didn't see. Man, I wish Dota buff worked. That'd make me very happy. But or sorry, that Dota worked. That'd make me very
I was
happy.
gonna say, I mean, I'm
But
using it right now,
no,
but
Dota buff is right here. No, but I just feel like it's kind of good regardless. Like here's the thing: don't think that people think pubs emulate pros, but in reality, a lot of pros come from pubs because when you're playing, you just play pubs, you play pubs, you play pubs, and that kind of thing.
yeah.
And then you think, okay, this hero is pretty good. So like a lot of people tried Queen of Pain and they tried her build where she just gets like 100% lifesteal, whatever. And like, oh, this hero is pretty good. But then they have to play her in situations where she doesn't necessarily get that kind of thing. And they're like, oh, this hero is still pretty good. So then they go in and they go pick the hero in their pro matches, and that's kind of how it goes. So I think we're just gonna see a bit of resurgence of a Queen of Pain, even regardless of the cooldown of the even regardless of the level 25. The bigger one is her what 10% cooldown reduction at level 15.
Yeah, I
That
think
one's a that's a pretty good talent, especially if you get eggs. It's like oh, I don't know how short of a cooldown is that. It's got to be like 35 seconds
yeah.
with eggs.
It's pretty ridiculously low, and just the spam ability and the survivability of that hero could be insane.
Oh yeah, for
It's
sure.
safe to say.
So yeah, I definitely think that's a Queen of Pain is a case of talents coming to save in a hero.
All right, so I asked I put a poll out actually in chat. I meant to do this at the beginning right here, but I'm also curious to kind of get your thoughts on it too. Um, Again, ESL1 Genting, really one of the first big time 7.0 tournament right here. Were you overall satisfied with this event? Do you think it was actually entertaining to watch, or do you think there's still changes that need to be made? What's the deal?
No, I like it. I mean, there's no denying that the game has changed with shrines and everything. I still find it very enjoyable to play and also watch. I don't think it's been that much of a game changer. I don't think it hasn't stopped the flexibility of the game in any way. I think in the future we'll probably see maybe a bit of relocation of the shrines. Dire offlane is like really, 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 really good. I was just actually talking to Bubble about it earlier. Like I was watching some of the replays in newbie versus Wings game one,
Mm-hmm.
and they just did an aggro trial lane, and their aggro trial lane was actually just unkillable because the shrine is so close to the Dire off lane, so it's completely fine. And they had like a Ja Rubik lane, or Wings did for their safe lane. So Rubik couldn't go and get his bounty rune because if he did, the Drow Ranger died.
Yeah.
Then either the Ogre or the Wyvern could go around and run to the get the bounty rune, whatever, and they just couldn't do anything. They were just stuck in this lane against Eslardar, an Ogre Magi, and a Winter Wyvern. And the thing is that they can't be ganked because if you look at the map, like the way the stairs are set up, if you're in like your half of the lane, even if you're past the river, and you place an Ogre Magi in the trees along where those stairs are, you just like you can't gank up those stairs because Ogre's on the high ground. He just pops the smoke, and Ogre just stands there. And he's like, "Hi guys, I'm Ogre Magi. You can't gank me because I have seen your smoke because I'm on the high ground. You're on the low ground." There's like absolutely almost nothing you can do about it. So
Yeah.
I think that's why. That's also I think a big reason why Newbie was picking Dire a lot because actually Newbie was until the grand finals. Until the grand finals, Newbie picked Dire all the
Really?
games except for yeah, they picked Dire like every single game. I think they had the chance, and then two other teams picked Dire as like Wings or Warriors Gaming and Execration, but like until the grand final, Newbie was just like Dire, 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 and then whenever they could take first pick, they took first pick, obviously because
Yeah.
everyone likes to take first pick. But whenever they couldn't get first pick, they took Dire. Now the thing is, in the grand finals, I actually have like I have the stream selection priority picked up. Thank you, Ben. Shout out to Knoxville for this. It's the greatest. Now, if you actually see at the end, Newbie took second pick, and then DC took Dire, and that kind of just I think that did a lot to throw off. It did a lot to throw off Newbie.
Ah,
Like they were at
interesting.
the end. Like I said, they were at the end of their day. Like they had played 6 games already, so then they got their preferred side taken away. Because I think they expected to take second pick, and they expected DC to take Radiant, but DC took Dire.
Huh.
And that was I did notice that. I thought that was really interesting, and I was trying to watch all the replays before, but because of like the servers and stuff, all the replays in the game are actually really messed up.
Yeah.
And there's like game 2 of this series is actually two creeps running at each other for about an hour and 15 minutes. So all the replays are messed up, but I really want to study that and I didn't get to. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But I do think that's very important to mention that just like nobody but Newbie was picking Dire until DC did at the end.
Yeah.
And just that, I think some of Dire lanes are easier. Just Dire mid is easier. Off lane is easier. Safe lane is debatable.
Well, those last two games as well. I mean, DC dominated newbie. It's like I don't know if that was exhaustion or what, but I mean they're up two
Exhaustion
to
and
one, and
outdraft.
you'd think outdraft was a big part of it. But yeah, I got the chance to actually watch the final because I woke up in the morning and figuring that it's probably going to be done, and sure enough, it's still going on because again, it actually was quite the grind
Oh yeah,
on
very
that
long
final
games.
day. But something interesting is being brought up. We got about 5 minutes here, but the fact that so you're mentioning that they like Dire, but overall in pubs across the board, all these rankings and everything, it feels like Radiant has a massive win percent advantage
What in
against
pubs?
in pubs and everything. Yeah. Do you think
Oh,
that
absolutely.
translates to competitive, or is it a different game?
Um, I
Obviously,
think it's I think it's if you like see what Nahas tweets all the time, you can see that like Radiant Dire advantage, it gradually lessens as you go up and up in the ranks and whatnot. Yeah, what was it, 5% minimum?
yeah,
But like in lower skill brackets, it's way bigger for Radiant than Dire. It just goes down, and that's just because like people will know how to use their advantages better on the map. There's a couple different arguments for why Radiant is better in pubs. Um, One is that, like, for instance, people will not use the Dire offlane to their full potential, like I was just mentioning. Like, your pub offlaner in 3K or whatever is kind of just going to, like, walk as far as he wants and he's going to get ganked or whatever, then he dies. And they're not making use of that advantage. A lot of the reason people think Radiant does well is because of, you can't, like, what's the minimap thing? It's just, like, it's easier to look at the way you're going rather than if you're facing the wrong way down. Like some people just say they don't feel as
yeah,
comfortable on Diver's
that's
Radiant.
true. The
Um,
clicking, yeah, going from left
it's
to right.
always been a factor since Dota 2 was created. It's just more prominent now, and I do think I think it's mostly the loss of Roche
Yeah,
for sure.
God, yeah,
Just
that's
because like everyone understood that it's way easier to get into Roche from Dire. Like that's just something that you always understand. Like guys, Roche is really close to us. Now it's just kind of in the middle of nowhere, so Radiant advantage is just kind of bigger. I don't think like I don't think there's any other bigger reasons than that.
all right. So I see you're wearing a Fnatic sweatshirt, right?
I am.
What about your Fnatic boys at this event? Didn't go so well. Didn't go
Eh,
so well.
not really. Such is life,
Such is life. That's a good way to put it.
Such is life.
Yeah, they, it's interesting. Again, I was going to talk about this later on as well, but they were using Yamata as a stand-in, but it's actually
Yeah,
announced
Yamato
today
wasn't standing.
in your dream. It actually announced that he's not going to be with the team anymore.
Hmm.
So they're down to 3 players all of a sudden again. Do you
They are
think
down to three
Fnatic's
players.
ever going to recover? Is this going to be the downfall of Fnatic?
It's time to sabotage Abed's visa process. He's never getting into North America
Ruin it
now.
for Team Onyx over there, yeah.
Sorry, Boba. Abed's not
Uh,
getting into North America.
rude.
No, but we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know nothing.
Well, there's the old school Fnatic team kind of forming together. The new Escape Gaming team that's not actually Escape. You got Trixie,
It's
Honey,
got
and
it's Finns.
Era coming together. Yeah,
The Finns are back.
the Finns are back. There you go.
Everyone fear.
It's
Finn
gonna be
Stack
fun,
is
man.
back.
I love what this roster lock happening. Which again, we'll talk more about it, but it's definitely shaking things up quite a bit. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. All right.
I will
Yep.
mention that neither Wings, although I doubt Wings roster changed, I think they just might have forgotten to register. Both Wings and Complexity don't have their rosters registered on the Dota 2 register site.
Rings in complexity. You said?
Yeah.
Really?
Hmm.
Hmm. I wonder how that's
Now
gonna
it's
go.
possible that Wings have just forgotten or something bugged out in the
Yeah.
system. I don't know yet. Like we haven't seen anything from Complexity, but I did think that was interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I assume that they're going to be fine. That would be especially Wings and even Complexity. I mean, I'm a
Yeah,
big fan of
because
them
wait,
too. But
Complexity, unless they've like suddenly imploded in the past 2 days, they said they were like staying together since like Boston. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't expect it to be anything, but I did want to just throw that out there.
throw out the drama, sprinkle the drama a little
Throw,
bit. Something
throw
might
out
be
potential
happening.
drama. No.
Who knows? Who knows? Cart, I want to thank you, man, for joining me and talking a little ESL one
Yeah,
getting.
sure.
Really appreciate it. Any shout outs? Anything else? Any shout outs you have?
Um, Shout out to Gibbs Fanatic Analyst. Shout out to Lurka. Shout out to Ben for this spreadsheet.
Where can people find
That's
you,
about
Cart?
it. At CartDota on Twitter. That's me.
There we go. That is CartDota. All right, Cart. Once again, I want to thank you for joining, and I really appreciate it, man. I look forward to maybe having you on in the future, perhaps. So appreciate it, man.
Thank you. You too.
All right, there we go. CartDota joining us. That was fun. Guys. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. Having him on, getting a little bit of an expert on, somebody maybe a little bit more analytical than myself, and talking some numbers there, talking some what we thought happened at the ESL One Genting, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that. But yeah, really though. As far as overall watching ESL One Genting, you take away the numbers, you take away the analytical side of it. As far as just straight up watching and being entertained, I know speaking for myself, I was entertained. I definitely enjoyed the bits and pieces now with the time zone issues. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch it all, of course, but I definitely found myself pretty entertained, taking advantage of the whole bounty rune system, taking advantage of all the shrines and making use of them outside of the base at least. I thought was really interesting to watch. And what Cart was talking about, too, with the aggressive trial lanes, seems like, to control those bounty runes especially and really kind of throwing some teams off guard. Most certainly was a factor. And also, I really enjoy the talent trees as well. I know that there's some that are more powerful than others, and some of them really just aren't like that crazy good, but the idea that it gives something both as a spectator and a viewer, and a caster, I should say, to talk about or to bring up, I think is actually pretty cool in terms of watching some good Dota 2 there. So, real quick, one thing else I wanted to bring up here is the results of our poll that we threw out. So, again, I plan to have a couple of these polls throughout the show here today, so look forward to those being posted in chat. After watching ESL 1 Genting, are you enjoying Dota 2 7.00? As you see the results right here, and it seems like everyone for the most part agrees. Yes, they definitely are. Seems the same, getting a little bit of votes there, and then a couple people saying no, they didn't actually enjoy 7.0. So no surprise to see it a little bit across the board, but ultimately seeing yes, far superior. Can't say I'm too surprised by with seeing that. So that overall was a great event, and again, DC Digital Chaos taking the victory there. You have the same shirt as me. Cool. It's a good shirt. It's a nice shirt. I'm not even sure where this shirt's from, to be honest. I can't say where it is from. So there we go. That's ESL 1 Genting, though. Again, guys, look forward to moving on here, though, as far as got plenty to talk about. So once again, you're tuning into the breakdown with BreakyCPK. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And now coming up the part here where I know no one's really interested. In fact, a lot of people are probably going to leave. Which is, understandable. But I'm going to be joined by another guest here in just a second. Going to have him come on. And we're going to talk something else. But before we do, I want to kind of lead into it real quickly. So the next topic I wanted to bring up here was the announcement by the one, the only PPD, a.k.a. Peter Pan Dam, now the CEO of Evil Geniuses. The announcement that he's going to be forming a new team. What? That came out of nowhere, it feels like. Yes, PPD officially announcing that he is forming a new team. And I like the title of his YouTube here. PPD New Team PogChamp. There we go. But no, PPD announcing that he's forming a new team. And actually...
Here, wanted to give you guys a quick update.
Actually, I want to mute it, actually. But, show it on screen for you guys, too. Kind of the video, at least. But... we have right here, you can't really hear it, I guess. But anyways, the point is he announced that he's forming a new team. It's called Team Wanted. And it doesn't have anything to do with Evil Geniuses, actually. But I'm going to go back to you at this point. Let's tap that up. Anyways, it doesn't have anything to do with Evil Geniuses. It's its own team here that he's putting together. And we're looking at the roster of it's himself. We got Chessie. We got Boris. We got J.O., and we got QO. That is the roster right here. You can see on the Liquipedia site. So very, it's interesting for a couple of reasons. One is simply the fact that PPD announced that he's forming a new team. That in itself is like, it caught me off guard. It caught a lot of people off guard, I think it's safe to say. Again, when he just was recently announced the CEO of Evil Geniuses and now being a player-owned organization, all that, and everything. But on top of that, the players that he got, we have quite the spread right here. Not only you got J.O. and Boris. Boris himself, he's a new player on the scene from my understanding, a player that hasn't necessarily gotten a whole lot of action playing competitive Dota 2, but PPD picking him up here, going to give him a shot. Jo, somewhat of a veteran, has been around for a while, from my understanding. From Canada there. But then Chessie, a player that's kind of been in and out of competitive play for a while. He's had some injuries that he's been dealing with. But of course, he is a fantastic player when he's all there, no doubt. He's going to be playing there mid. And then QO. That also is just like, wait, what? Talk about QO joining in now. MVP is now like, well, what the hell's MVP anymore as far as their team goes? But all right, so I think that's kind of a good chance to segue here into my second guest here of the show, as there's plenty to talk about, no doubt. So let's go ahead and bring him on. I'm going to give him a call right here and see if he answers, or if he's like, nope, sorry, not doing it. No, I'm sure he'll be joining us in a second, but there we go. Peter, you there? Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Hello? He can't hear me. This is what happens when you don't test beforehand. Testing. I can hear you.
I can hear you now.
You can hear me now? Okay. We got it. We figured it out. PPD, how's it going, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me. Thanks for including me in your broadcast.
Thanks for joining me on my broadcast, man. I'm excited that you're willing to join me on my first episode here. So, looking forward to hanging out for a little bit and talking some Dota as well as amongst other things. So, first, did you watch the ESL1 Genting, and what did you think if you did?
Yeah, I watched a bit of it. Like you were saying, starting my own new team, it's important for me to like stay up and watch the competitive side and try to learn a few things. I was trying to watch the DC versus VP, and so I sat down on my couch in my living room and put it on the big screen. I was excited to watch it, but then I ended up just watching the broadcasters just talk for like an hour, and I just fell asleep, and I woke up and it was like game 2. It was like almost over, so
yeah.
I was disappointed. But yeah, I tried to watch as much as I could.
It was a pretty quick series, to be fair. So DC kind of crushed VP from what I remember. So the result of DC winning it, I mean, did that surprise you at all, or was that not surprising?
I was a little surprised. I think I've been kind of shaky about DC in terms of like how good I think they are. I think they had like a pretty easy road at the major, and then they like kind of got really upset by Ad Finum, I think.
Yeah.
I think that like I don't think DC is at the same level as like OG, for example. So I think even if they got to the finals, they would have been a little one-sided. But I mean, this kind of like solidifies them as like a top team, I think, and kind of justifies all of the invites and kind of results that they got.
Watching 7.00 Dota, it must be interesting, kind of seeing all the changes and everything. Was it exciting for you? Did you find it entertaining, or were you a little not sure?
I don't know. I always welcome change. I'm more keen to ideas and concepts that make the game simpler, so that way newer players can get involved, and that can increase the popularity and the exposure that Dota has. I think one of the biggest problems with Dota is that the learning curve is so high. So anything that kind of makes the game more complicated than it was previously is not a huge fan of, and I don't know exactly where this patch has fallen in terms of that, because I'm someone who understands Dota, so maybe I'd have to ask like people that are new to the game.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of like on like a scale of 1 to 10, how easy is it to pick up Dota? And then you ask someone that now, and you ask someone that previously, and see kind of where that number lies. So I'm not totally sure. I think the game got more complicated though, so I'm not a huge fan. But regardless, it's change, and it keeps the game fresh and exciting, and that's fine. And for me personally, I've kind of just grown to like accept the patches, and I just like, oh, I'm a competitor. I'm a Dota 2 player. If this is what Valve wants, this is what Valve gets. So I just have to learn. Yeah, I have to learn it, and I have to, be the best I can be on what the current game is.
I think that's the best attitude to have, right? Like it kind of sucks, just having to accept that, I guess, to an extent. But at the same time, if it is something that you're relying on as far as making a living out of even and being a competitor, you gotta roll with the punches, especially just make the changes rather than complain about it. So it's good to hear that. Good to hear that. All right, so enough about that though. I want to talk about you, PPD. That's why we have you on after all on the show here. So I was just talking about this new team, Wanted. Clever name, by the way. What was the deal with the name? How did that come about?
That was Kyo's idea. I think he has thought about the idea of making his own brand before, and maybe that's kind of what, because he immediately knew what name he wanted, he knew what kind of logo he wanted, he knew what colors he wanted, so he kind of just had it all figured out, and I just made it happen for him.
Okay, so right off the bat here, I want to be clear. So this has nothing to do with EG organization, correct? It's a separate entity, a separate team.
Yeah, we're very separate. I think right now we're still trying to feeling out this roster. I think that there could be potential for us to kind of line up as kind of like an EG junior, or EG B, or EG Red, or whatever you wanted to call it, kind of like a second team. That's not a possibility. But right now we're just playing, and maybe we'll qualify to a LAN, maybe we won't. We'll just have to wait and see. So nothing to take too seriously. I think that if we signed up as kind of the EGB team, there would be a lot of expectations on us, and that's not what this team is really about. We're all just a group of guys who like playing Dota, and we want to keep playing Dota, and we'd love to participate and compete in all of these great tournaments that are happening. So maybe when we get good, we can kind of actualize our potential and maybe make a change at that point. But for now, it's just something that's very, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So this roster in general, it's kind of from all places, kind of. But Kyo's the one that really, I think, caught a lot of people off guard, if anything. What was the deal with that? Did he come to you, or you go to him, or how did Kyo become involved?
So I've been talking to Kyo for almost 2 years now. After every big shuffle, it's kind of funny how it works, because after you're playing in these majors or you're playing at the international, and as soon as your team is eliminated, immediately you're a free agent, and you start messaging pretty much anyone and everyone you want to see what's going on with this new shuffle and where you might find a team. So Kyo is someone that I've been talking to, and it's someone that I'm really excited to play with, because I kind of had wanted to play with him in the past, but it just I already had such a good roster already with the current EG, and there just wasn't an opening for him. And there's been a couple players like that that have constantly messaged me almost after every major or something, just to see what's going on. So Kyo is one of those guys that I've been talking to for a while, and it just so happens that we have this unique opportunity to work together now that I'm kind of have a fresh start in terms of the Dota roster.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's obviously a great player, and it'll be fun to see how he fits with everyone else right here. So. All right, I want to get into another question here, where one of the things that was brought up when this even was first announced, and I was part of this train of kind of bringing up the discussion of conflict of interest. You're the CEO now of EG. You just formed a team that isn't necessarily fully EG. It's kind of maybe, as you're getting at, not 100% sure, but the point is you're playing on another team that can very likely compete against the team that you're the CEO of. What is your response to the conflict of interest debate here?
Sure. There's definitely a conflict of interest. I definitely agree. I'm not trying to say that there isn't. It's me as a CEO. I want our current EG roster to do incredibly well. I want them to have the most fans. I want them to have the most exposure. I want them playing in all the finals. I want them holding the trophies. And if I'm playing up against them in a tournament and I beat them, I'm obviously preventing them from doing that. So there's definitely a conflict of interest. That being said, we're not EG. I don't think we're anywhere near as good as they are. They shouldn't lose to us. And if they do, then they're not the best team. And this is definitely something that I talked to current EG management. I talked to a couple of the Dota players about, just to make sure that they were okay with it, and everyone was totally cool with it. I think that the spirit of competition kind of outweighs conflict of interest when it comes to Dota. We saw LGD playing versus LGD Young at the Boston Major, and it's a little bit different because I am a part of management and I have an ownership stake in the company. But at the end of the day, like regardless of your brand and regardless of what kind of flags you play under, each Dota team wants to be the best Dota team. And if there's a Dota team out there that beats you, then you're just not the best.
That's a fair way to put it. And yeah, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but just to reiterate, so you mentioned you talked with your EG team about this idea of you forming your own team. So it sounded like that they were cool with it, and talking over with them that they're good to going on the same page with you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the reasons why I wasn't on the current iteration of EG is because we needed someone like myself to help run the company. It was necessary. We have this brand new company, totally separate from Twitch, totally separate from Good Game, and we have almost 20 contracted players, and there's people are flying all over the country every day, and we just have no one to kind of organize everything. And this kind of making our own brand or separating from Twitch has been kind of my project ever since TI4. So it just made sense for me to kind of slot in for this position. But now that things are getting a little more stable and we're kind of coming out of the chaos of this divestment,
yeah,
I definitely have a little bit more time on my hands, and I think that everyone recognizes that. And I'm still friends, and I'm still good friends with all of the players on EG, and we always have fun hanging out at events, and there's no kind of animosity about me not being on the roster anymore. It's just we all love Dota. We're all competitors. We shuffled between 6 or 7 players for 3 years almost, and we won a stupid amount of money together. So it's all love,
So you're still buddies with Sumail's the point. You're still buddies with them.
Sumail and I have always gotten along outside of the game. I think that in a practice setting, I've always been a very strict leader, I guess. And I think one of Sumail's biggest struggles is his practice ethic. So occasionally I would kind of get on him about hey, we're practicing now, you need to give 110%. And Sumail being 16 years old, wasn't totally there yet, which is totally understandable. But besides that, everything else, Sumail and I have always gotten along, especially outside of the game. So being able to spend time with him now as not a Dota player and not a teammate, we get along just fine. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of that in the True Side episode. The most recent was Sumail. Maybe when it comes to the practicing and whatnot, there was a little bit of the drama there. But
that was literally exactly the same thing that I went through with him. So it's something he'll grow out of, I'm sure.
Yeah. Get older, you mature, and everything. How was that, by the way? And you weren't necessarily a big part of that, I guess, as far as being on it. But True Side, are you glad it's over?
I'm glad for the guys it's over. Yeah. I think that it was a really great opportunity, especially I think it came out really well for Sumail. I think people kind of saw the more human side of Sumail as he kind of developed this, bad reputation off of a couple of questionable tweets and a couple of questionable walk down mid feeds. So I think that people kind of see him, or that Valve's documentary did a good job of humanizing the players, and I think people really connected to that. Also, now that they're done with kind of this Valve True Site thing, we can kind of start doing kind of our own content ideas. It was just to do our own content ideas with the Dota team, it was just way too overwhelming because Valve was just always there.
What happened to the carts, the go-karts, man?
I don't know what happened to the go-karts. I'm really disappointed because so they showed me a 3-minute, because what they would do is they would take all of the uncut footage and then they would send it to a company, and that company would cut it up into kind of 4 or 5 minute segments, and then they would send it back, and then they could use whatever cuts they wanted in their True Site, their 30-minute episode. So I got to see the 3 to 4 minute kind of cut of the go-kart scene, and it is amazing. I was like, this is so good. This whole True Site thing was such a good idea just from seeing this one 3-minute clip, and I was just so disappointed that it never got into any of the documentaries. So I hope at some point they release that, but I don't know if they would even do that.
Maybe on the DVD edition that they released, the director's cut, perhaps.
Who knows? Maybe it'll show up at the next major. Maybe it'll show up at TI. Yeah. I mean, they just have it in their records. It's not like it's gone. So maybe I'll try to ask about it.
It's there forever. I'd like to see that. So that kind of leads now into also we've obviously been talking a bit about you being the CEO now. what exactly does that mean? You're the CEO of EG. What does that mean?
Sure. What does that mean? I'm the big boss man, I guess. I have final say on a lot of things. I'm more so just a facilitator of, I make sure that everyone's getting their job done. People come to me just for any of their concerns or questions. I would say that the most interesting part of my job is that I'm kind of in charge of the direction of the brand, kind of the brand's image, what players we pick up, what teams we pick up. That's kind of my say. What games we get into, whether it's, League or Overwatch or CSGO, like that final say is kind of mine.
Does it feel weird saying like League, when you're a Dota 2 player, but now you have to think as a CEO, right? Like,
I mean, it was kind of taboo, a few years ago, but there's no denying that League of Legends is like the top esport game, and I would absolutely love to have a League of Legends team in the LCS.
Yeah.
Just waiting for everything to kind of work itself out, I guess.
Okay.
Maybe someday.
Someday. Is there any other games that come to mind? Obviously, League, as you mentioned there, but is there anything else that you would like to get involved in that you're not yet? There's some popular titles out there.
I'm super excited about fighting games this year. I think that's really, really going to be huge this year. I'm really excited for our Smash player, PPMD, to kind of get back into the game. And I love Smash. I played it as a kid all the time, so I'm excited to, watch him play and have someone to cheer for. The new like Marvel Infinite is coming out in the fall. And we have like Chris G and K Brad, who are like two of like the best Marvel players in the world. So I'm excited to see how they do for that. People have always asked me if we're going to get back into CSGO, and I'm not totally sure if we are. I think right now that whole market is just like super overpriced. Players are just, there's so much kind of like VC or like angel investor money in the scene right now. And we're one of the few esport brands that hasn't really sold part of our company to big money. So we don't just have like endless gobs of cash to throw at players, which is kind of what's happening in CSGO. So it's just tough for us to find budget for such a spendy, an expensive game.
Well, I heard you were trying to go pro in CSGO yourself.
I've dabbled in a lot of games. I'm trying to see where where I might move on to next. I think for a second there, I was sitting at 2900 SR in Overwatch, and I was thinking, maybe this is my game. And I've been playing for like 3 days now, and I just can't get over 3000. I can't reach my platinum ranking. I'm just sitting or diamond or something, whatever one's. I'm at platinum or diamond now. I think I'm at platinum. I'm trying to get to diamond, but it's been a struggle. I don't know. It's been a while since my matchmaking rating in a game has directly correlated to my happiness in life. So I'm taking a break. I played some Skyrim last night. I just needed some time to myself.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's fun to do. So one last thing about being the CEO, do you feel like you have to be like a little more careful on things like social media now and stuff, or do you still feel like people will understand that this is who you are and you're not overall too worried about that?
So I like that I kind of have a personal brand behind my name. Not kind of this anonymous CEO that a lot of other brands have. There's a couple, I think like Hastra from Envious has like a pretty big following, and same with, I forgot his name, but the Optic owner.
Okay.
He has like a huge following. Obviously, he's from Optic, so they just have huge social media following. But it's kind of fun to have my own personality and be able to like still pop on and stream games and even like compete in tournaments. It's different, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. I think it's just a unique kind of experience. So, yeah.
Forgot to ask, who do you play in Smash? You seem like a Falco player.
I play pretty much everything, honestly. I don't like people. Not that I don't like people. I don't like the fact that people pick like the same like 6 or 7 characters. So if I'm playing Smash like at a tournament, sometimes I'll pick like Game & Watch or Bowser or Donkey Kong or Link. Like I'll just random. I prefer to random. That's what I tell people to do when I play against them, because that way I actually have a chance. Like if they're playing their Mars or their Foxes or their Falcos, like I'm gonna get destroyed. So I tell them like, you get to random once, and if you don't like it, you get to re-random, but then you're stuck with it.
Nice.
So that's kind of how I play Smash, and I actually win a couple games here and there against people that bring their own controllers and think they're hot shit.
Yeah, I used to be really good. I played a mean Jigglypuff as well as Ness. I like those
Cool.
characters, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but that was long ago. We're getting old, man. We're both getting old. You're the big boss now, CEO of EG, and I'm doing my thing here. So,
Break, we're not getting old, man. We're young, young-minded.
that's true. We are overall still pretty young. All right, I mean that's pretty much getting to the end of this. But outside of, so back to Wanted real quickly too. When can we expect to see you guys your first event? Do you have that planned out?
Well, we wanted to announce our roster as soon as possible. I guess like the roster locks are coming up, so we wanted to get it out a little bit earlier. Supposedly there's supposed to be DAC qualifiers at the end of this month, which just haven't heard anything about. But we wanted to get our roster out there. That way, hopefully we get an invite to that qualifier. And so that'll probably be our first matches. And like I said in my video, we're not going to be playing in a ton of tournaments, mainly focusing on kind of major tournaments like DAC and Kiev Major and the International. So we'll just have to wait and see what comes up and what we get invited to. It's all dependent on what my schedule kind of allows me to do. But, if there's a good opportunity to play in a tournament, we'll definitely play in it.
Where do you see your potential as far as a North American team? What's the list? I mean, obviously, I see you got EG and a DC up there, but are you next in line or what's the deal?
I don't know. I don't know if we're up to that kind of. I've kind of put like NP and complexity almost on like the same tier. Maybe NP a little bit higher.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see, and we're gonna have to play together. But I think with a player like QO, being as good as he is, I think that we can definitely kind of reach that NP complexity level, hopefully pretty soon.
What's your favorite support hero to play in Dota 2 right now? 7.0.
Pudge.
Yeah?
Yeah, Pudge. I like Pudge. I mean, Pudge, Omni Knights, Undying. I don't know. I really like playing 4 heroes. 4 heroes are just more fun. You don't buy the wards. You just go own. You just roam and you kill people, and that's good fun in pubs. Playing 5 is just awful. You have to buy wards and everyone sucks and you just lose.
Gross. All right, PPD. I really do want to thank you, of course, for joining me on the podcast here. Any shout outs? Anything else you want to say?
Wow, shout outs.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
So many people to thank.
No. I don't know. Maybe no shout outs. I don't know what to say.
Dude. Where can people find you?
Shout out to Monster Energy. Really just changed my day, bringing me up. When I hit that like 8, 9 p.m. and I haven't had a nap, Monster Energy's there for me.
There you
go. Where can they find me? They know where to find me. Twitter, Peter Pandam. That's where it all goes down. I might post a YouTube video. I'm thinking about doing a Twitter Q&A video. So maybe check out my YouTube channel /Peter Pandam.
Check it out, guys. I know I am. I got that follow button hit. All right.
Thanks, Breaky. Appreciate it.
No problem. PPD, thanks again, man. Really do appreciate it. And best of luck with the new team. We'll obviously all be watching, man.
Bye-bye.
All right, so that's the boss himself, joining us here on the podcast. So really thank Peter Pandam for joining us, obviously, and quite the player / personality / now CEO, and always awesome to have somebody like that on the show right here to weigh in and talk about things that things have been happening recently with Evil Geniuses and his new team and everything. So they got all kind of lined up, with this podcast and everything as far as his announcement of the new team and him being recent CEO. So I was glad that he was willing to join me on the show. And I think that went pretty well. So want to thank him again one more big time there for joining us. There's PPD in chat. Thanks, man. Okay, so that's the PPD situation there. I think we got some good content out of that. Yeah, so I asked him personally about the tier list. It's kind of funny because I feel like I actually agree with him. That's when we first heard the announcement of this team and the potential and everything. I really got DC, EG, Complexity, and NP as kind of the clear cut maybe favorites, but then you got a team like this kind of joining the squad here and seeing what they can do, on a consistent basis in coming up tournaments. So yeah, we could be seeing them perhaps as early as the later part of this month right here. So Skullbone, thank you so much for the bits right there. I really do appreciate that, man. So on this podcast, I want to be very clear with this, though. I currently don't have the whole subscribe and the notification stuff set up on the podcast. Honestly, it's something I may do in the future. I didn't even think about that, but I was more focused on just getting this out for the content piece. But any donations, any things like the bits and stuff, really do appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much for any kind of support there coming out. So I really, really, really do appreciate that. All right, so that's going to do it for that segment right there. Now, this is going to take us into a break, guys. We're going to go on a short 5-minute break right here. Going to get some more water. Going to recoup ourselves. Short 5-minute break, and then we'll be back with Biver of Na'Vi going to be joining us here. Looking forward to having him on the podcast and talking some more about now his new team and him joining the team there as the support player and what he expects to happen and whatnot. So Biver's going to be joining us here in just a couple of minutes, guys. So definitely sit tight. We'll be right back here with the breakdown with BreakyCPK, a Dota 2 podcast. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be back. Cast me. Have you ever wanted to have a hype caster cast one of your games, however haven't had the opportunity? Or how about you were just looking for ways to get your team more exposure with a professional feeling broadcast to help? Well, now is your chance, as I will cast a select match of yours, either replay or live, for each of the following games. Dota 2. Possibly BKB, but of course that's going to be wearing off. There's one Ravage. Remember, has a second one. Two still used. Star Spirit flies back in the background. They catch Sven actually at Half-Life. Sven is going to drop right there. The Sunder not even used actually by Monkeys Forever here on the Terrorblade. That Metamorphosis, they do kill the melee max, but at what cost there? CSGO. Peeking. Flame is down. They're right on top of him. He jumped on top. Twist goes down. Lekro gets that kill on a Weber, but Lekro will fall to toss it. And of course, Han. The double jump on a Behemoth. The shockwave still goes off to the eruption, but he's still alive. Earthshatter, meanwhile, is up from Parallax. He does get caught in the Arcane Vortex, though, from Moira. Andromeda will go down. You do see no. For prices and more information, just check out the website, thegoodgeekwife.com, and go to the BreakyCPK Cast Me page, or just click on the link provided. Hey, happy to have you back here. Looking forward to talking some more Dota 2 here on the podcast. So, looks like we got our next guest just about ready to be joining us here. So we're going to get right into it. Going to be joined by the one, the only Biver of Team Na'Vi. It recently announced that he's joining their squad and going to bring him on here in just a matter of a second here. So as soon as he is good to go, but really going to be excited to have him on and talking about obviously his new team and everything here. So, oh, actually, I need to make an edit here real quickly. There we go. This isn't PPD anymore. This is going to be Biver. There we go. All right, so as soon as he answers that good old Skype call of his. No, excited to be real quickly, actually, while I was still waiting for the answer here. Guys, feel free to whisper me on Twitch if you would like to join in later on the call-in segment. Again, I'm not going to get everyone on, but if you want to join me later for the call-in segment, whisper me on Twitch and let me know what you want to talk about by calling in. So, Biver, are you there?
Yeah, hello?
Hey, how is it going, man? How's it going?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great myself. Great myself, man. Happy to have you on here. Happy to have you on. That's right. You do not have a webcam, right? Okay.
No, unfortunately not.
We will just have to look at myself instead. All right. No, but happy to have you on, man. So, Biver. First, it's Biver, right? I'm saying that right?
I mean, it's originally a Danish nickname. In Danish, it would be Biver. But, so, like, I've heard every variation of it pretty much in English. Biver, Biver, Beaver. I'm good with everything, man.
I think when I was, you had to remind me, but that's right. I casted you a little bit back in the days of some Heroes of New Earth there, and I believe I probably mispronounced it a couple of times myself. So I'm gonna stick with Biver though. All right.
I like that. That's good.
All right, but happy to have you on, man. So obviously, I wanted to bring you on because you're kind of a big deal now. You're part of Na'Vi, this organization here. How does that feel? How does it feel to be known as Na'Vi?
I mean, it's a bit crazy, honestly. I don't know. I still see myself as the same person, but now all of a sudden I have this prestigious name, next to my own name. It's a bit unreal.
Yeah, it must be. And again, not to take away from you as a player necessarily, but it's safe to say this is kind of your first big team, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What have you done in Dota 2? What are your accomplishments so far in Dota 2?
Well, I played on, I would say, 2 Tier 2 teams, namely London Conspiracy, and I played later on with Pro Dota. Those were the 2 teams I've sort of been known for, I guess.
Okay. So, real quickly as well, just to remind people, so joined by Biver here again. He just recently joined the team. It was announced with him, RMN, and Pycat. New players joining the team, of course, Dendy and General remaining a part of the team right here. But I got a question. So, how long ago did you hear that you were going to be part of the Na'Vi team? Or, how did that discussion start even with being a part of the team?
It's Na'Vi contacted me a long time ago, in November, I think. Where we did some interviews where they would ask me a bunch of questions, how I am as a person, what my weaknesses and strengths are and such. And then I didn't really hear from them in a while. But then when I came back from from China. I played at the WCA 2016. They wanted to try me out, so I did that. And 2 days later, I got the message that they were happy with my performance and they would like to sign a contract with me.
So tryouts went pretty well, it sounds like. That's good to hear. PyCat is a player that hasn't, he's a known player, but it's been a little bit since he's been on a team. When did you know about these new teammates like PyCat?
Oh, well, I heard about the potential roster back in November even. I think Navi has known like PyCat and Armin were going to be a part of the team for a very long time.
Yeah.
And the fifth player was kind of like up in the air, and I ended up being that player.
Okay. Right on. And then Dendi, of course, he's a very known player in Dota 2 history. So what is it going to be like playing alongside Dendi, you think?
It's going to be cool. I mean, my first impression of the guy is like very good. He's very positive, and if they're down to earth, like he's just another teammate who's just playing Dota,
Yeah.
So.
Did you watch some ESL1 Genting by chance?
Yeah, a bunch of it.
What do you think of 7.0? Oh, we'll start with there. What do you think of 7.0 and how it looks, how it feels?
I like it, man. My pubs have been going well. I think the games have been very interesting. Yeah, I'm always happy for change, and I just kind of adapt.
Yeah. Were you surprised to see DC win it?
A little bit maybe, but not that surprising, honestly.
Do you think Navi would have won it if you guys were there?
You can't ask me that, man. We haven't even played like scrims really.
Really? You haven't been scrimming too much yet?
No, people have been on vacations on vacation, and now Dendi, General, and Armin, they're at the WESG in China, the national tournament.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So we'll be playing after that. We'll be boot camping in Kiev.
Okay, and you're going to be boot camping because there's a Star League, right? A Star Series?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Those qualifiers there. Yeah, that's what I was looking into that. So that's going to be, in fact, I'll put on a screen right here for those that may not have known. This is going to be taking place later this month, so you're part of the group stages. There's one more team that still needs to be found out here, or two more, I guess. Yeah, so that's going to be a grind. So how do you think that's going to – I mean, we'll start with this question here. Like, EU, qualifying from EU especially seems to be considered, pretty hell. There's a lot of teams that obviously are very good, and are you looking forward to that grind or what?
I mean, it's gonna be a challenge for sure. The other teams are very good, and it's gonna be a first tournament together. We've been playing, or we will have played, I think 4 or 5 days before the first match in that tournament. So I can't really say that I have the absolute highest expectations, but I'm just excited to see what we can do.
Is there a team that you really look forward to beating in Europe, or is it not really matter for you?
I mean, we're just focusing on ourselves. I don't think it matters which team we play or, yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. So, yeah, that's going to be fun to see that event again. I believe that's, like I said, later on in the month right here. So, do you see you guys qualifying there? Like, obviously, again, that's going to be the first event. Are you confident with the little time that you've been with the team that you can qualify for an event like that?
I mean, sometimes you see, like, these newly formed teams have sort of like their honeymoon phase where everything just clicks, and so I guess we can hope for that. But I mean, we're all individually skilled players, so we'll see what happens. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Are you having fun playing 7.0? I mentioned watching it, but what about playing it?
I like it.
See, I think it gives teams like you almost a better chance, right? Like, because it's still newer, like a newer formed team, that's somewhat of an advantage, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, I feel like teams are still playing very similarly to how they did in the old patch, so I don't think that matters too much. I still think teams are going to play the same way they did before, and not really going to change too much, really.
How do you think things are going to go when you guys match up against Team Secret there in the group stages? You got former Navi player. Is there anything that's going to come of that? Or is that going to just be another match?
That's just going to be another match, at least for me. Like, I don't have anything special there.
Nothing there. All right. All right, well, cool. No, that's excited to hear that. Again, you were joining the Navi squad, a name that I recognized at least, and looking forward to seeing how you do with them. So I think that's pretty much going to cover all we wanted to cover here about joining Navi. Any shout-outs, anything else you want to say?
I got a shout out to my Danish buddy Fawh. That's Fawh. He told me to shout out. So and shout out to all the Nami fans, I suppose.
I know Fawh. That name sounds very familiar. Why do I know that
Yeah,
name?
he's a Han player.
He is a Han player, yeah. I'm going to say
Yep.
that. Definitely recognize that name. All right on, man. So excited to see again how things go with you, and even as soon as the later part of this month. So take it easy, Biver. Thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, so there we go. That was Biver right there from Navi joining us. So happy to have him on, talking about him recently joining the team right there. So a couple of actually results to go over. We'll start with this one here. Again, I've been posting some straw polls in chat. So we got this one right here. This was the PPD's new team Wanted. Will they qualify for a LAN event? Was a pretty simple, straightforward question right here. And they actually got a majority vote. I mean, 72% to 28%. I got to say I'm a little surprised at this. Because when you think about qualifying for these kind of events, likely there's only going to be one, maybe two spots available, right? Like out of the American region. So they would have to definitely beat some top-tier competition. Now, granted, some teams may get invited, like a DC, like an EG even, so that obviously opens up the door a little bit. But it's not going to be easy by any means. And there are upcoming teams, in my opinion at least, that are definitely looking decent at least in the American Dota. You got teams like Team Freedom, Doo-Wop comes to mind. FDL actually just formed a new team. With some solid players over there. So then you got, teams from South America too that, who knows what they can make happen. But actually there's a new American team I'm looking right here on Wikipedia. Apparently that just happened earlier today. So these roster changes, man, just continue to be crazier and crazier as time moves on. All right. But yeah, so that'll be fun to see how PPD's new team though does fare and whether or not they can qualify for a LAN event. Navi kind of pretty much asked the same question there. Again, keeping things pretty straightforward here on the podcast. But will Navi qualify for LAN with this new roster? Little less maybe, but overall still some pretty confident people out there that they're going to be qualifying for a LAN in the future. So we'll see if Navi is able to make it through again. What many consider to be quite the onslaught. It's just so many teams that have potential of qualifying out of the European region especially. So it no doubt is going to be very, very tough, but definitely a possibility that they could make it. So again, we'll have to wait and see how that goes right here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, actually, speaking of being a support player, I happen to be a support player myself, and, we just had a support player on in Biver, PPD, also before that a support. There's a lot of support stuff going on today. If only there was a way to learn a little bit better when it came to being a support player. I'm grinding right now. I'm actually down at 2,800 MMR, around there. I want to get back over 3K. I hope that can happen. If only there was some way that could maybe help me. If only there's some information out there, some site even that actually gave me said information.
So the first thing I want to start off is by showing a couple rune warding spots. So a lot of you guys probably placed this observer ward here. But what some players may not understand is the full potential of the ward being placed. So I'm going to move Crystal Maiden out of the way just so you guys can get a full feel for how much vision this ward actually gives. So the common reason a lot of players put this observer ward is to get vision of the rune here. Something that you may not understand is that it gives you pretty good vision of rotations as well. For example, let's say the enemy Queen of Pain comes up and picks his haste rune. You also get really good vision of any rotations that the mid hero might take for this path or this path. Maybe they pick up the haste rune and start walking towards your safe lane. So this ward acts as not only something that sees the rune, but also rotations. Now if the enemy offlaner, let's say it's 7-8 minutes into the game, enemy offlaner is coming in, they're level 6 Clockwork or something, and he's trying to gank your mid. You can see the rotation of the Clockwork coming in to gank your mid lane. So this is a very useful command that you guys can use. It's called dash kill wards, and you can use this if you want to try it out in your games as well. So the reason I use that command is because now I'm going to place an observer ward on the Dire side to kind of talk about the benefits of the ward from the Dire perspective. Now, as you can see, it gives pretty similar vision of how we had vision of this staircase here. We get staircase vision right here, and it shows you the Radiant mid laner. Let's say they come up to pick this rune and then start ganking your mid laner, or let's say they pick up the haste rune and start heading towards your off laner. It gives pretty good vision. Once again, if you want to see the vision of the observer ward, just click on the observer ward, and it shows you a massive circle here. It's 1,600 range for observer ward both day and night. So as you can see, it shows you transitional play from grabbing the rune. It shows you anyone kind of meandering around this area, so it's pretty good. So the next place I want to talk about is the top rune ward spot. And what I like to do is place the observer ward as far left to the cliff as possible, because it's still going to spot the rune. Alright, let me just move Crystal Maiden out of the way. It's still going to spot the rune, and at the same time it gives you a little bit extra vision of this area around your shrine. Now if you place this observer ward right here, you wouldn't get this little extra vision on top. As you can see, if I click the observer ward, it covers a pretty nice area on the high ground as well. So you want to make sure you place it as far left to the cliff and not too close to the middle or the right of the cliff area. So it's going to spot the rune on that bottom, but it's going to spot the rune. If the enemy mid laner, let's say, picks up the rune, you can see them transitioning towards your off lane, and at the same time you can see any support rotations from the enemy carries or enemy supports heading towards your mid laner. At the same time, it gives you a pretty nice vision of the neutral spawn right here, as well as the bounty rune. So if their opponent supports are trying to be sneaky, let's say it's 4 or 6 minutes into the game when the bounty runes spawn, and you see them transition all the way from their safe lane into your jungle area, you can see them pick up the bounty rune, so you get pretty good knowledge of not only the rune area, but also behind your off lane area. So that's really nice for the Radiant side. Now let's type the kill wards command again, and let's go on and show you what you can do on the Dire. Now the Dire side has a cliff here that you can ward. I'm going to move Crystal Maiden out of the way. And the usefulness of this is pretty similar, just reciprocated onto the Dire side. So once again, you can see vision of the rune. You want to place it just a little bit exactly where the eyeball is. If you place it a little too high, you're going to miss the rune spot. So you want to make sure when you place it on the cliff, it's right near the middle, and you're going to see the enemy mid laners, enemy support rotations, off laners, all that kind of stuff picking up the rune. You also get pretty nice vision of this cliff area, so you can see them pick up the rune and then head towards your mid laner. It also shows any rotations that that the mid laner may have potentially. As you can see, it sees a pretty good ways around the camps here, and it also shows you the rune and any rotation. So pretty good stuff overall.
All right, welcome back, guys. Hopefully you learned something from that. Hopefully that was educational. That is the point of that as well. So. Something else we're going to do real quickly here before advancing on in the podcast here is I'm actually going to bring on a representative from Pugna here to just real quickly kind of talk about what you saw right there and an explanation as far as maybe what you can do if you want to both mix and support me, but also learn some more Dota too. I'm going to be joined by Donnie here, or also known as what is it, Serenity? How's it going, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing terrific. I'm happy to have you on, man. Welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
So
glad to be on the inaugural podcast.
The inaugural the breakdown. It's just I can't believe we're finally here, man. These sweet graphics and everything. No, happy to have you on though, and we just saw a tidbit, a very small tidbit of one of the many educational videos on your site. What's the deal, man? What did we see?
So basically that was just one of our content creators. His name's Restocker. He's posted some cool stuff on Reddit, and we contacted him a month ago, and we're like, hey, do you want to make some content for Pugna? And it is pronounced Pugna, P-V-G-N-A. The V is just Latin. Anything in Latin is spelled with the U's or V's, and it means battle in Latin. So anyway, Restocker had put up a couple of really good threads on Reddit, and we just were like, this guy knows what he's talking about. We'd love him to make some videos for us, and he thankfully said yes. And so that was just a small clip of him sort of just showing like some basics of warding. The full series is on our site, and it's like, I think, about an hour long. He goes into like basics, more advanced wards, dewarding, blocking camps, etc. And yeah, it's kind of funny because I've been watching the podcast, and PPD was sort of talking about how like the game is a little bit more complex now.
Yeah.
And just the learning curve of Dota in general is like pretty insane. So that's sort of what we are wanting to address. Anybody who's done the tutorials, not to flame Valve too much, but they don't help that much if you really want to like.
You mean the unranked onslaught of just trying to like learn the game for yourself somewhat and getting called bad and noob and stupid and everything? Yeah, no, it's great tutorial. Yeah. Great tutorial system.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is one in the game. It's like you can pick Dragon Knight and that's it, and just like I don't know, but anyway, so. Yeah, we just we wanted to make a bunch of really cool guides. We've got like Chessie, who's also on PPD's team now.
He's pretty good.
He's making some guides. We've got Slasher, who does like Slasher's Way, and a bunch of other like really knowledgeable Dota players. And you know, it's a complex game. If you want to learn all the heroes. You know, how many games do you have to play? Breaky, what's your number one hero?
What is my number one hero? I like to play. I consider Dazzle to be my number one hero, honestly.
Okay, and how many games do you think you've played on Dazzle since like Dota 1?
Since Dota 1? Yeah, like, a lot. He's maybe like 50 games at least, something like that.
Okay.
Is that a lot? Is that a lot or a little? What were you expecting? I don't know.
Dude, I mean, like if you look at somebody like Attacker, he's got like 1,500 games on Kunkka.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
And so he knows Kunkka, but does he know other heroes? Like I've got, you know, like over 100 games on Axe, but do I know how to play Winter Wyvern? Probably not.
No.
You know, it's a lot of time to sink into learning stuff, and so if you can just like kind of outsource the learning, sometimes it can help you learn the game better.
Yeah. No. And again, this is gonna sound. I know how this is gonna sound like, guys, but genuinely, believe me when I say that I was told about this site and I actually started checking it out for myself, and I've actually been already learning bits and pieces here and there. Hell, even the video that we just showed for you, you know, it's a very, maybe to some people it's a simple, like, they already knew that, but there are a lot of people out there that, yeah, there is just so much information in this game, and it's good to have sites like this. There really is, like Pugna, that provide all this information and the chance for you to learn, whether you're a new player, whether you are somewhat advanced, but looking to, you know, tone your skills, so.
And I know you're probably getting like a sellout spam in chat right now.
Tons.
But I just wanted to also mention that like one of the big things that we really kind of support is content creators. Like that was sort of the initial idea behind the site, was that we wanted to allow people to do what they do best and what they love.
Yeah.
And being that Dota is like a growing industry and esports in general is a growing industry, it's really hard to support yourself on just esports these days. You know, who knows what it'll be like in 5 years, but if you want to be like, if you're trying to become pro, if you're trying to be like a coach, a caster, whatever, you have to just like grind at night and then work during the day and all that stuff. And we like to support content creators that are really serious about it. So we revenue share with all of our content creators, and we also pay them up front to make stuff and incentivize them to make really good content. So, you know, it's really all about the community at the end of the day. So. Yeah. You know, sell out, I guess, but it's really kind of about you guys.
It's easy to sit back and say that for people, but exactly the fact that you're giving this resource, this opportunity to work, and it's a win-win for everyone. I mean, that's the best way to look at it. It's a win-win for the content creators, obviously for your site as well, and it's a win for even the people using it as a resource for them to learn and get better themselves. So. Across the board, I see it as a win, and you know, yeah, I am being very picky, as people may know, as far as myself, you know, who I'm partnering with and who I'm getting involved with, but I got to say, I'm definitely excited to, you know, be alongside of Pugna here, and definitely getting involved with you guys, and looking to maybe even do some content myself. I can teach people how to play some Dazzle at the 2800 level MMR bracket. We can talk about that later on, you know.
Dude, I mean, some people need that. There's plenty of people who are at like 1.5K that would love to get up to 2, 2.3, 2.8, etc. So
No, but yeah, guys, so definitely check out the site, specifically this link that I'm going to link in chat right here once again. This is actually, it helps, it not only if you do sign up, again, getting a good education via Dota 2 for yourself, but it also helps support me as a streamer and as a partner with them and everything. So I would appreciate it, but also, again, you definitely get a lot out of it as well. So, Daniel, I want to thank you for joining me here. Anything else you want to say?
Nope. Thanks for having me on the podcast, and it's I'm looking forward to the next episode as well.
Got to get through this one, man. Still episode to get through. We're almost done, but yeah, no. Looking forward to this being a continuing thing for sure. So really do appreciate it, man.
All right, take care, dude.
See ya. All right, so that was again Daniel, aka Serenity, there from Pugna. So again, guys, hopefully you guys again, if anything, learn something from that. Whether you do something, whether you use it or not, honestly, completely up to you, obviously. But I really do think it's kind of a cool tool, and I plan to use it more myself. As far as anyone that has been watching my stream, I've been grinding quite a bit, trying to become a better player and stuff like that can help do so. All right, so advancing on to the podcast here, though. So as far as other stuff to talk about here, we're going to start getting to the point where there's going to be a fair amount to go over. Not going to spend too much time on discussing a whole lot of it. It's going to be more of kind of recapping everything that has been going on in specific areas. We'll start with we'll start with the some tournament recaps and perhaps some things even to look forward to. But the first one I wanted to go over here was the Star Ladder, what is it? The Star Ladder I-League Star Series. Yeah, it's got this long title for some reason. Anyways, the Star Ladder I-League Star Series. This is the Chinese qualifiers actually that took place. And it actually finished off earlier in this week here, earlier last week I should say. I actually got the chance to officially cast this. I was actually asked by Beyond the Summit BTS, who are the official streamers of the English region at least, and they needed a caster, and I was like, sure, I'll do it. So I had a lot of fun with that, but as you can see, this qualifier's been going on for a bit. They have the group stages and everything, but in the end, we got our two teams advancing on to the main event. Team VGJ, this is this new team that was recently formed, but a powerhouse team out of the Chinese region. We're looking at players ROTK, Aggressive, Freeze, FY, and Fenrir. If you know Dota 2 in the Chinese region whatsoever, you know that this is a team that is very serious, and it really isn't too surprising to see them advancing on. But they dominated CDEC. I got to cast that series again. They dominated them, and it wasn't even close, frankly. They were a very, very good team, so I look forward to seeing them at the main event portion of this. And the other side of it, IG Vitality had a bit of a grind, but eventually came out on top over Invictus Gaming over there. Let me event recaps. Here, I forgot that I still had it like this here. There we go. We'll change it to event recaps. Some on-the-fly editing. It's stuff like this that I definitely will need to be a little more smoother with. But yeah, the other cool thing about VGJ, by the way, is VJJ. Team VJ. That's clever. Is that's owned by, not owned by, but I guess the honorary captain is Jeremy Lin, who's a NBA basketball player, of course, and getting involved in the Dota 2 scene. So he's working with them. But anyways, IG Vitality over IG. The IG's going at it. But this was a kind of very back-and-forth series. Honestly, a bit of throw, especially in that Game 3. IG was up like 10,000 gold and 10,000 experience at something like 30 minutes into the game. They were in a very good spot. But in the end, they actually came up short, and obviously IG Vitality came back behind Sven, actually. That's right. He had some huge crits in a couple of fights that did some work. Wait. I just called you Daniel. For some reason, I thought his name was Dan. His name's Donnie. By the way, that was Donnie that joined us on the podcast. I was calling him Daniel for some reason. Oh, the D's, man. Those D's. Oh, that was Donnie that was joining us. A.K.A. Serenity. Anyways, back to this right here. So, yeah, IG Vitality and Team VGJ are the teams advancing on out of the Chinese region. So the main event portion, we have three teams now, as you can see here real quickly. So Wings Gaming, VGJ, and IG Vitality, they're the three teams. But there is still going to be one other invite team. We don't actually know who that team is going to be just yet. Something tells me it's probably going to be Evil Geniuses. I would not be surprised if it is, but we'll see what it ends up being. But obviously, we got the European qualifiers, 2 teams. We got 1 team from the American, 1 team from Southeast Asia, and then 1 more direct invite. With that said, the other regions, they're actually starting up. A couple phases of them have already started here. But the big phases, the ones that really matter, don't start, I think, until January 24th, as you see down here. So January 24th, it looks like, is when the European region at least is going to be kicking off. Then you got the American region, which is going to be also the same time frame, and then Southeast Asia. It looks like even a little earlier, January 16th, actually. So by next week, this tournament's going to be starting for the Southeast Asian region. So that's something to definitely look forward to when it comes to upcoming events. But yeah, as far as tournament results, we got that right there with the Star Ladder iLeague Series, iLeague Star Series, that is. Another event that actually wrapped up pretty recently here and worth going over real quickly for you guys. We're looking at the Royal Arena. Royal Arena, it's only $5,000 tournament, but again, it's good to have events like this to actually, give these up-and-coming teams that are kind of on that top echelon. But even in this case, I mean, hell, there's Alliance, definitely the new Danish Bears, aka Cloud9, which obviously we'll talk about in just a second here, picking up that new team. So this actually ended up playing out where Vega Squadron ended up beating Rebels 3-0 in the grand finals. So Vega Squadron, I think that may surprise a little bit of people, including myself, honestly, as far as out of these 6 teams. I can't say I would have predicted Vega Squadron to take it all, but they're the team that does. And they are the team that claims their share of that $5,000 prize pool. Team Empire took out Alliance 2-0 in the third place match over there. So that's Empire getting the third place money of $500 and Alliance ending up short, unfortunately, in that fourth place. But Alliance, they've been a little rocky. They've been a little rocky, to say the least. I don't think this roster is necessarily as effective as I think they were hoping for. So at the same part of me really hopes that they don't make any dramatic changes. I mean, I guess they can't now. They are roster locked, but clearly something. We'll see how they do in the upcoming Star League, those qualifiers there. But they have been a little rocky with this new roster, I think is very safe to say. For a team, for an organization especially, that's done very well. Obviously, Na'Vi is kind of in the same boat, right? Where you got those 2 teams that have a lot of great history with them, but ultimately they are struggling a little bit when it comes to some recent results. So make this a little bigger. There we go. All right, so those are the couple of events that I wanted to recap right there. Some roster changes. Boom, on the fly editing. We got some roster changes to talk about now as well. We'll start with. I don't have these up. I guess not. Well, guess here. We'll go like this. We'll sort by the teams. The first one to talk about. What are they known by? I guess they're not even. Here, where's the roster lock thing? There we go. Here's the roster lock thing for the roster's officially locked right here. Who did I want to find? That's right. How about this team first? We got Team January 25th, as they're currently known as. So the Escape Gaming officially announcing that they dropped their team, no longer a part of them. That was Cinderin, Era, and Koikfa. But they also recently announced their 2 new players that they're going to be playing with, Hani and Trixie, joining the ranks right here. And going to be playing alongside the Cinderin, Koikfa, and Era combination. So you talk about, I saw this, and I'm sure like a lot of other people out there were like, whoa, we're going old school Fnatic, baby. That's so cool. Both in Han and even some Dota too. Obviously, these guys played together quite a bit, specifically the core of Hani, Trixie, and Era. So really cool to see that kind of being brought together. As far as me personally, they right away have kind of jumped back onto this list of like teams that I really am excited to watch moving forward. Arguably going to be the most excited team that I am. I still got Complexity up there. I consider to have a good relationship with people like Z-Freak and Swindle over there. But definitely a team that's definitely up there as well. And I'm really excited to see how they do moving forward here again with that first event especially. So definitely a roster to be most certainly excited about coming up here. Another one that, of course, is drawing some attention is Team Onyx, actually. Pull them up here. Now, Team Onyx is so their story. They actually so they started with a 4-man roster of Demon, Dubu, not Albino. What? That's Mason. Okay, Demon, Dubu, Mason, and Bulba were their original 4, but they're still trying to figure out their 5th. Now, a lot of people had speculations on who it may be, but it wasn't until a couple of days ago where Abed actually officially announced as the 5th player for Team Onyx, and going to be joining the team over here. So apparently there's some crackling noise. I'm not sure what that would be, to be honest. Anyways, can I make it bigger? Yeah, sure. I can make a full screen for you guys if that's easier to see, something like this. But anyway, so Abed, he is the new 5th. So we got the new 5-man team here for Team Onyx. That definitely is going to be fun to see how they do. A new American team. I personally don't know a whole lot of what to expect with these guys in terms of now, I recognize the names personally, but I can't say for sure. I feel like, it's kind of this mesh of players that are not randomly being brought together, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel like there's something about this team that I'm a little concerned with. Like, it's not as strong as Team Wanted, for example. Like, I'm a little more confident about Team Wanted, mainly because they got already a natural-born leader in Peter Pan Dam, who's obviously done it before at a very successful level. And those are all kind of players that I feel like you could be, very reliant. But you got players here on this new roster that it just feels a little unsure, right? It feels a little uneasy as far as what they're going to be able to do with this roster. And actually, this is a better look of it as well. So again, Mason, Abed, Bulba, Dubu, and Demon. Bulba's going to be the captain there. Demon, of course, coming over, formerly just a Fnatic recently, but now playing in the American scene once again. Is he going to be? What was I getting at? Oh, where's this team going to rank amongst other teams? I think that's actually a really good question as far as the American region goes. Again, I would have to, personally, I would put them below Wanted now for sure, and kind of, below the top 4 of what I see, EG, DC, NP, and Complexity. And then you got your Wanted, you got this team Freedom. I'm really excited about, actually. I think I'd put them in there for sure. You got Team Onyx, and maybe that tier 2, you could say, as far as American teams go. But yeah, I don't know, just something about this team I'm not the craziest about. It really something just little unsure. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes for them as far as their progress and what they're able to do here. We also got not Na'Vi. This was actually Liquid. I have it written as Na'Vi here. I was like, had to do a double take as far as what to talk about next. But anyways, GH announced recently, or more so Liquid, Team Liquid announced that they are picking up their new 5th player, and that being GH. Now GH, with the pickup of GH, actually, it gives them a 3rd player that has over 9,000 MMR, or who has had over 9,000 MMR in his past. So I think that right there is actually pretty cool. You talk about a powerhouse team, and a team that definitely has a lot of potential. I think Team Liquid is no doubt a European team that all of a sudden is going to have to be, once again, a lot of people looking at what they can do. Again, they also, didn't they win DreamHack recently? They won they won DreamHack recently here with their previous roster, so it's not like they've been doing god-awful lately, but they have been going through some roster changes, though. But now with this new lineup, again, it's going to be fun to see what they make happen with some no doubt, some very, very strong players on the side of Team Liquid right there. So another announcement is Cloud9 officially announcing their comeback into the Dota 2 scene, as they pick up former Imperial, also known as Danish Bears even before that, but the former Imperial team now a part of Cloud9 right here. So we're looking at Baby Knight, Rise, Ace, Hesta Joe Rotten, and Noya is their 5-man roster. So this is a team that definitely has had some success. Of course, WESG, yeah, that's right, they got the first place there. So obviously a team with potential. Now, they did have some rocky results recently. We saw in the Royal Arena right there. They finished in the 5th, 6th place spot, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, I have these on, guys, not necessarily to read. It's more so just to show something else on the screen. But anyways. Anywho. But that's the announcement of Cloud9 picking up their new Dota 2 team. So it's good to see Cloud9. It's always great to see organizations like that back in the Dota 2 scene or just involved in general. But I think this team, we're already talking about all these European teams, especially, or the gauntlet that you have to go through. It's going to be a tough. This is one of those teams that, to me, feels like they're going to be the ones on the outside, unfortunately, for a bit. And now, will I be proven wrong? Yeah, I would like to be, as always, but I don't know if I necessarily see Cloud9 as a team that is going to be making some big plays and getting some big results for the European scene and the qualifiers over there. There's just too many good teams, man. Too many good teams. One more roster announcement that I definitely wanted to talk about here before advancing on is this one right here. Now, Fnatic, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier in the show as well, so I'll just go full screen for you guys. But Fnatic, so they played in the ESL Genting 1 that just wrapped up, of course, yesterday. They looked awful, as you would expect. They did not play very well at all. Again, going into that, they only had 2 players. They picked up 3 others, Febi, Yamata, and what was the other player that they just had that they kicked? It's not showing it here. Anyways, In Your Dreams or something like that was his name, but the point is, obviously, they just picked up these players right before this event, so it wasn't really a lot of practice, if any at all. And now, In Your Dreams actually announced that he's no longer part of the team. And then Yamato was a stand-in all along. He wasn't actually a part of their 5-man roster, I should say. So they went from 2 to 4.5 to now back to 3. So it seems like the Fnatic roster is going through some issues right now. In Your Dream, that's what it was, yeah. They're going through some issues right now, and they definitely have some work to do because, again, this is an organization, especially in the Southeast Asian region. I mean, there's potential, right? There's nothing against Southeast Asia, but there's potential to kind of fit yourselves into the Southeast Asian region scene and do very well. Out of all the regions, I mean, we're talking about like the big one, like China, Americas, Southeast Asia, and Europe, and then CIS, I guess that's like 5 really right there. I think you could argue Southeast Asia is probably the weakest of those 5. I mean, I know America was kind of considered that for a while, but I think as of late, America really has been having a lot more teams that have been doing very well, like DC just winning this tournament, for example. You got the new Wanted team. You got the new Team Onyx, as we talked about. Teams like Complexity and NP who are on that cusp of being very good. You got Team Freedom do well. So they're really, I feel like America's most certainly is a step up on Southeast Asia. But so the point is, Southeast Asia, there's definitely room to kind of break in. Players like Mushi in Ohio, they're too good not to be on a top team in Southeast Asia, in my opinion. So, yeah, because look at this real quickly. By the way, look at Southeast Asia and the teams in the qualifier upcoming for the. Again, this starts next week. This starts next week for the Starladder iLeague Star Series tournament. The $300,000 land is taking place. This is a qualifier for it. These are the 8 teams: MVP Phoenix, aka the team with no players; Fnatic. We're just talking about their shit show. Faceless, who actually is, I personally like this team, and I'm excited to see it. They had a disappointing performance at Boston, but I look forward to seeing them doing well again. Warriors Team Unity, another kind of solid team, actually. Execration, TNC Pro Gaming. I know this team here has been a little bit shaky, a little bit up and down, but we'll see with their new roster. Geek Fam, I personally know nothing about. I don't know if they're familiar or not. Not really too many names that I would recognize, but Power Gaming, another kind of case of like, is this a team that's actually legit, or is this kind of just one of these Southeast Asian teams that we don't really know? Anyways, my point is, you look at this, and then you compare it to the American qualifier here. overall, I think I'm a little more scared of the American qualifier, right? Complexity, DC, NP. We already talked about Onyx. Again, Duop and Freedom, these up-and-coming teams. Infamous, the team from Peru. Actually, they're a very solid South American team. They really are. I've actually been watching a bit. And then we have these guys, Team Dialcom. They got to the open qualifiers. I'm not expecting too much out of them, but just kind of a quick comparison right there. I think you would have to give the edge, no doubt, to Southeast, to the America. Which region is stronger in Dota 2 right now? Well, here, you know what? We'll make this. We'll make it a poll. We'll just do that. A poll on the spot right here. Which team do you guys think? Not which team. Which region do you guys think is the stronger right now? Where the hell is my dashboard? There it is. I have so many tabs open, man. All right, what do you guys think? Which region? Now, I have a feeling this is going to be somewhat biased here, so I'm not expecting this to go the greatest, but I'm actually just curious to see what you guys think as well. All right. SEA is underrated. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. Like, you can say they're underrated, but to me, yeah. I think the tiers kind of goes. You got Europe and China are pretty much like given. See, it's hard to say because it depends on what we're talking about, right? Like, obviously in America, you got EG and DC, arguably two of the strongest teams in the world. So, as far as like the top tier teams, America actually is competing with the others. But let's see what you guys think here. Where's the straw poll? There we go. All right, not the most votes, but still gives an example of what people are thinking right now. All right, so the Americas, it looks like, is winning by quite a bit, 25-11 right here. Again, not surprised. And this, like I said, this isn't an actual science right here by any means, but it at least helps give an idea as far as what maybe we think as far as which region is maybe stronger. I personally don't think there's any argument. I do think the Americas is absolutely stronger than Southeast Asia, but people will have their opinions on that. I just think for all the reasons I've just said right here, you can't really argue that Southeast Asia is stronger right now. All right, but anyway, so yeah, that's the Fnatic situation. That's where that came from. Kind of going on a tangent right there. But that is the Fnatic situation and what they are going through. But going back to that, I would like to see Fnatic actually back on the scene and with a strong team once again and doing very well. All right, I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about here on the as far as recapping and everything. So now we're gonna go to our final segment here of what's gonna be the community call-in. Again, you're not actually calling in. It's more so I give you a link here to join me on Discord if you like. But I already got one guest here. Going to have him come on in a second. But so pretty much we're just going to go to the point where if you want to talk about a certain topic or if you want to have a discussion real quickly. Again, it's going to be short. I want to keep these to maybe just a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes, nothing too long. But if you want to do that, whisper me on Twitch with what you want to talk about, and I can throw the Discord link your way when I get around to it. So. Well, we'll go ahead and bring our first guest on right here. If I can get this working, actually. Everyone, voice permission. You're good. All right, Jinx, you there, man? Does your mic work? We'll see if he can get his mic to work, because right now it shows that it's muted. So I'll see if he can actually get it on. But I know you have no permission. You have no permission, huh? Well, that's kind of weird. There we go. Are you there? 1 second. I think I have you muted, actually. 1 sec. There we go. I say something?
Okay, yeah. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I got to turn you down a little bit, but that should be good. What's up, Jinx? How's it going?
Okay. Perfect. Not much, man. It's going good. I really enjoyed the podcast so far. Thanks for having, all the information. It's pretty useful.
Yeah, no problem. So what do you want to talk about here on this Let's call in here.
So I wanted to talk about the ecosystem of Dota 2 compared to other esports, especially the implementation of leagues. I was actually talking to Beef, who's the manager of Cole on Reddit a few days ago, and we were talking about leagues and the ecosystem of TI and what that means for Dota. And he mentioned that Dota has an incredibly off-putting ecosystem for most organizations, and they don't want to actually like invest in Dota or play Dota because TI is everything. It's incredibly volatile. Teams break apart, and they live and die by TI results and majors. And so he said that the kind of the expectation of the community was never that TI4 would hit 10 million plus. That was a huge outlier. And that when TI 5 and 6 ended up being, 18, 20 million, it just got absurd. And it inflated to the point where without a stable league and possibilities of revenue share, no orgs are going to step in or want to step in nowadays. Especially if you look at CSGO, revenue share is becoming a big contested thing in that community, which is also a Valve title. And people are stepping in orgs because they want the revenue share. So I just kind of wanted to ask you what your opinion is on like the future of revenue share in Dota and a possible revamp of the Dota ecosystem, because as it currently is, with TI being the end-all be-all, I think it really is preventing investment from either VCs or esport orgs or new blood coming in.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, yeah, to kind of go over what in a couple of different areas right there. First off, CSGO is kind of interesting because I think that they're the right direction somewhat as far as how they're running their events. And he said as far as the revenue share goes, they actually have a decent model in there. But at the same time, they are having their drama themselves, right? There's the whole PEA fiasco that's came up recently that is bringing up a lot of drama with the whole players trying to unite and form their own events and everything, and that just recently got canceled. But that's a whole other story in itself. But as far as Dota 2 specifically, with the TI kind of being the ultimate, I agree there that most certainly there needs to be some kind of league implementation. But kind of taking a step back here, the esports scene continues to be in a very wild west phase, right? Like there's so much random stuff going on, and not even necessarily random, but just a lot of people are trying to do what they think is best, but ultimately there's a lot of hands coming in where, they're trying to get what's the best for them personally rather than, maybe what's the best for the healthiest for the longevity of said scene. And I think there's still a lot of work to be done amongst all esports, let alone Dota 2, before we're going to be in a very comfortable spot for that. But Overwatch recently, they announced the idea of an Overwatch League. I think that's a direction, most certainly, that ideally esport titles and a thing like Dota 2 could possibly look to head in the future. But unfortunately, that's still a ways off. I know even for the Overwatch League, there's still really not a whole lot of information out. That's more of an idea from Blizzard rather than actually execution on what they're going to be pulling off. But I will say I think Valve is, with the more majors, like they got, the 3 or 4 majors last year, and now I think we're only down to 3 majors this year. It's kind of a step in the right direction, but yeah, the idea that's all in on these big events, specifically TI, that in itself only happens once a year, it's not going to be the most appealing, ideally in the long run, for things. So getting that said league and getting the opportunity, whether it's through in-game sales of some kind. I know CSGO, big with the sticker sales for the whole revenue share thing. Some kind of ecosystem there going that could be healthy to generate that revenue for the Dota 2 scene. But there's definitely still a lot of work to be done for Dota 2, even though the International is probably one of the best events, ever held amongst all these.
I think what's really interesting is, I think, in my opinion, the not instability, but the purposeful kind of lack of involvement kind of stems from Valve's like organizational structure and hiring priorities as well. If you look at Blizzard and League, the two scenes with, or like Overwatch and League, the two scenes with like specific structured leagues orchestrated and run by the developer, Blizzard and League, especially Riot, have a ton of like, not unnecessary perhaps, but like the developers themselves hire esports personnel. They have esport divisions they're paying and keeping on payroll, like staff they own. They're hiring and paying for casters themselves. They're choosing to make hiring decisions that include an esport division, specifically like an NBA type commissioner, NFL commissioner would run a sport. Whereas the hiring decisions and organizational structure of Valve would explicitly prohibit having anybody who's not a developer or doesn't have coding as a core competency ever be brought on. as an employee of Valve, that prevents having, any type of esport division explicitly running Valve esports like CSGO or Dota. I think the interesting thing is that when they added TI, just because of what it became with the crowd sharing, that necessarily prevents leagues from coming up from third parties like ESL and other members who've invested into CSGO simply because TI is what it is. There's no competition. No team is going to ever play in a league when they can play for a $20 million tournament. There's no competition at all. But I think the interesting thing is that there's a similar level of not really caring or not really being hands-on from Valve as there is in CSGO or Dota. The only difference is because CSGO never had a TI, never had such a level of money and involvement, it allowed the precipitation of outside investment to come in and fill that function, like an ESL or a PEA or whatever else. But I think the interesting thing is that if Valve's hiring and organizational structure necessarily precludes them from wanting to set themselves up as like the commissioner or the organizer of their own esports, then either it will never happen or there need to be explicit incentives for third parties like ESL to step in and become kind of the organizational structures. But that's very difficult to incentivize, I think.
No, yeah, very good points. Definitely very good points. Well said. I do feel that the direction that things have been heading in, again, ideally we'll get to that point, but yeah, a lot of it is going to come down to this. It's on Valve to an extent to have to be willing and open enough to want to allow for said opportunity, whether it's the hiring process itself, not having that specific esports division, no doubt, kind of is a telling sign perhaps right now, but you got to figure as time continues to move on, I think the biggest thing that we all have to remember here is sit back here real quickly. I've been doing what I've been doing now for a little over 6 years. That's only 6 years. Like, it depends on how you look at that, I guess, in the end, but it's only 6 years that I started, casting, and really when Twitch wasn't even a thing in the beginning, and Twitch itself has only been out for 5 years now. This whole esports idea, sure, it's been around for a lot longer than that, but it really didn't start taking off until about 5-6 years ago, where all of a sudden these events, the active events, became a thing. The companies themselves realized that there was something there. Obviously, Valve was a big part of that with the whole community revenue with their first TI, especially, or the TIs to follow. So it's still a very, very early phase right now. And as far as a business aspect goes, looking at it from that perspective, we can't be too worried that such decisions aren't eventually going to come, but they obviously haven't happened yet. But I think it really all goes back to full circle that I think a lot of people are really just in agreement on from the outside that there needs to be some kind of structure, needs to be some kind of organization from specifically Valve's side, and that is also really interesting when you think about it too. When you think of traditional sports, how the creator of basketball, the creator of football, whatever, they're not there necessarily. It's just these leagues that have formed around this idea that have then taken off. So I guess that's another way you could look at it almost, is maybe we don't necessarily need Valve in the end, but at the same time we kind of do, because the technical aspects suggest that we do, whether it's their balancing patches or they're always going to kind of be in that control. So that definitely is going to be a thing that holds back esports a bit if the company behind said game and said title isn't willing to get invested heavily themselves and really make it a thing. But again, it's still early on. It's still early, I think, is the biggest thing to keep in mind, and we still have a long future ahead of us here. We're still at the beginning.
I think something really interesting that was actually brought up, you were mentioning the controversy in CSGO with the whole PEA thing that happened recently. I think one really interesting point that came out of that was that whether you're for PEA or against it or anything, a comment made by Reginald, who's the owner of TSM, when he was arguing for PEA, was that one of the conclusions kind of made by the owners of the PEA, the Professional Esports Association, kind of a group of NACSGO team owners who are trying to form a conglomerate to build a league to control NACSGO. A comment made by them, I wasn't sure if it was explicitly made by Reginald or kind of revealed in one of those insider journalistic articles, but the idea was essentially this, that in esports moving forward, it is a foregone conclusion that tournament organizers have no power. That the only people who have power in esports are the owners, and by extension the players, and the game developer itself. That there's no way the scene is ever going to be constructed moving forward such that a tournament organizer has the ability to compel players to play, to punish players by saying, oh, you've cheated, you're not allowed to participate in our events anymore, by they cannot be the power or the real organizational strength behind an esports scene, because all of the negotiating power, the ability to play in your event, give you sponsors, give you views, it all lies in the hands of the esports organizations and by extension the players that they employ, and B, the developer of the game themselves, who dictate the rules by which you play. So I think it's really interesting that when you discuss that there needs to be an involvement from Valve or developers in general in terms of exercising control over their esports scene. One of the harms, I think, or risks moving forward of a company like Valve stepping back is that there won't be any equity or parity in these power structures. If these tournament providers don't really have any power because teams can twist their arms and kind of force them to move the way the teams want them to move, then without a developer kind of incentivizing decisions for the good of the community and for the good of the scene, a team that's backed by a VC, for example, could come in and make decisions purely to extract value in the short term and not care how these decisions damage the team because they're making their sponsor money now, they're building their brand now. So I think there really needs to be an involvement from Valve to push back against people who come in for the scene and make their money now and leave, because that pushback will not be provided by the tournament organizers because they just don't have the power.
I couldn't agree more. Again, very well said, man. So really do appreciate you joining me, Jinx. I do want to start to wrap up here, and I got a couple more people that do want to come on. But thanks for joining, man. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, sounds good. Had a great time, man. Lovely podcast. Take care.
Thanks, man. All right, so that was Jinx right there joining us on the podcast. Again, it's just a random viewer, not a random viewer, obviously. An intelligent viewer tuning in and giving us his insight. And honestly, he actually had some great points, and I feel like he's kind of preaching to the choir in a lot of ways, with the points he's making. Again, as far as going back to the organization themselves, that's a really interesting way to look at it. That Valve needs to kind of look at these outside organizations that are trying to come in, such as something like an ESL, and maybe trying to make the whole short-term benefits, and keep that in mind, that they're maybe not looking necessarily for the longevity in the end, as far as is this the best for the ultimate outlook on said scene and the game itself and the lifespan of such an esport title. But yeah, I mean, obviously you could argue that it is, because that also helps them in the longer term. I don't know. It's there's so many levels to that as far as that discussion goes, that it's just that could be a whole podcast on itself. We could have people on and discuss what we just did there, but put enough thought into that for now. So I'm gonna invite my next guest on right here. Got one more. Again, if you want to tune in, I only maybe take one or two more here, but if you want to whisper me with what you wanted to talk about real quickly, I can bring you on, and we can go over said topic here. So as we are winding down here on the breakdown with BreakyCPK here, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this show so far. So got our next guest. Welcome to the show. How's it going, man?
Hey, dude, what's going on?
Nothing much. So you wanted to talk about complexity, I see. What's the deal?
I mean, I've been watching Swindle and like his whole career and all that stuff ever since the very beginning. Like ever since I think his first land was Thailand, when he went and he met like Papa Drake and all that stuff. So I've been watching him for probably like almost like 8 years or whatever, all the way since Con days. And like I watched his team Complexity at the Boston Major, and I really thought they performed well, especially against EG, and they pulled up like some big-time upsets because, I mean, obviously they were not the favorite in that matchup. And a lot of people thought it was a fluke the first time he won, and they did it again later on in the day, and they beat him twice. So, I mean, I don't think when it happens twice, it's luck. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the Complexity situation with the Boston Major was really something. It's not a fluke when it happens twice. I mean, there's just no way around that. And again, it sounds like that. Yeah, you've been a fan of Swindle and the Complexity team for a long time. I know a lot of people consider me to be biased when I really try to fight for Complexity as well. But it's results like that really stand out. That it's not a fluke. They got the leadership there. They got the mindset that is needed by a Tier 1 team. I'm not saying that they are overall these top tier players, but even back in the Dota days, a player like a Swindlemelons was never really a very, very good player. It was more that mindset, is more the drafting and more the play style and how he led his team in those games that ultimately led to their success. So I also remember the Northern Arena event that I attended. They brought up a similar example, how I
watched that.
Yeah, how they played eHome, I think it was, in one of their matches early on in the event, and they took them to 3 games or whatever, and they ended up losing it in the end, but people were giving them flack like, oh, they lost it or whatever. But then the next series, I think Wings played them, and they got crushed by eHome.
I remember, you're right, yeah.
And it's like, and then Swindle's is saying like, when they get crushed, it's like, oh, Wings, they misdrafted or something like that. But when Complexity goes 3 games against a very solid team, it's like, they lost to that Chinese team, and they always get negative in a lot of their outcomes, I feel like. But
yeah, but I honestly think they're at an okay place right now. And while most people think the leaving of Justin was like pure drama and it was horrible for their team, whatever, I actually think they look okay with Monkeys Forever. Like, he's a pretty solid player.
It's been an interesting transition, because obviously what that did with him is it moved Moo also to the 1. Now, I will say, kind of being behind the scenes with them a bit, both at the Boston Major Northern Arena, Moo's loving it. He as a player loves the fact that he gets to play the 1 now. I think that's even going to be a more comfortable role for him. And
he does it well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he does it very well. I think you can agree. And also, Monkeys, I think the biggest thing, it's going back to Justin real quickly. Again, kind of some behind-the-scenes info. Justin was a bad fit. There is no way around that. He was a bad fit.
100% agree.
For the team on a level of far. Okay, Kyle is a captain, aka Swindlemelons. He is a very fierce guy. He's a very motivated guy. He's a very amped up player in personality. He's not afraid to tell you if you're doing something wrong. Now he's also not afraid.
He'll call you out for sure.
He's not afraid to take blame either, but he will also call you out. But you have to know that going into a team with him in the first place. I think there was a misunderstanding there with Justin that he wasn't exactly sure what he was getting into, and they did not get along. Is the short of it. But now going back to Monkeys, he is a much more comfortable player with it. He's a very laid-back guy, and I watched a bit of their practice. He was getting on Monkeys, and Monkeys agreed, and they had a little bit back and forth moments, but in the end, you'll come to realize that you have the same goal. You want to win some Dota 2 events, and I think Monkeys absolutely is a better fit for that reason alone. So I'm excited for this new roster.
What do you think they have to do to get to becoming a tier 1 team? Because right now they're in a good spot. They've got some great wins. I mean, they didn't finish amazing at Boston, but I mean, they're progressing. What do you think they need to do to take that next step? Like, do you think they really need a solid coach? Do you think they need to take a step back and just watch replays nonstop, which I'm sure they do anyway? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, the coaching idea, I don't know if that's 100% necessary. Again, when it comes to having the great minds, I think Swindle especially has that, his brother even, Z-Freak, they can definitely talk back and forth and come up with some viable strategies. And I will say this about that, I almost think that may hinder them sometimes. I think Kyle is always trying to maybe do something a little bit different when it comes to their draft. Like, obviously, for the longest time, Leshrac was a go-to support hero for them.
That's their signature hero, yeah.
Is that necessarily the best choice? Is that, okay, I will say this. I'm in conversations with Kyle as well. He's told me he does not want to draft heroes like a Naga Siren or whatever, or like these quote-unquote cancerous heroes, because he just hates winning that way. And I'm thinking to myself, like, who the fuck cares if people hate you? You need to worry about winning the game, not actually worrying about what people are thinking about how you're winning the game. I think that's the kind of the thing that they really need to fix, specifically Kyle as the drafter, when it comes to their success, and then ultimately just obviously playing together.
I agree, because sometimes they'll have stubborn picks, and they'll literally will play a best of 5 and pick Leshrac every fucking game.
Yeah.
And Leshrac works, as we saw with DC, because they won Game 4 with fucking Leshrac and stomped Newbie. So clearly the hero works, but you obviously cannot pick him all 5 games because he doesn't work in every lineup. So I think that kind of flexibility to maybe, if you have to pick Naga 2 games out of 5 in order to win some money or finish top 3, you just got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that right there definitely comes to mind as far as improvements to make. But other than that, I really think it's going to be a repetition thing. It's going to be, obviously, the new patch, I feel, helps a team like this that is kind of on that cusp of being tier 1, and it kind of puts them on an even playing field to an extent as far as strategies go and everything. So with that mixed in with just a lot more grinding, I know Cancel's now been playing at the team house and every now and then at least, and we're going to see them here in the qualifiers.
Cancel, man, that guy's been on fire mid. I rarely ever see that guy lose middle, and he's been playing against some top K, like 9 MMR talent lately. Like,
he did awful at the Northern Arena, and he knew that, and Swiddle had to kind of console him a bit because he felt really bad, but boy, did he bounce back at the Boston Major. He was arguably the reason they did so well in the Boston Major, specifically BBG.
Like some of that OD play with his Hurricane Pike skills, living with like 10 HP and shit, like it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he played fantastic, and he's just another one of those. He's actually really fun to hang out with kind of guys, and I really wish the best for him just simply because of his lovable attitude that he has as a person and towards the game. So. Yeah, I hope the best for Complexity, but as I'm talking about earlier, I think the American region is getting tougher and tougher at the same time. You got Onyx, you got Wanted, you got these up-and-coming teams, so
I mean, personally, I think the 3 best teams in the world are Newbie, DC, and EG. So, I mean, if you're looking at the top 2 out of the 3 best teams in the world being in NA, I don't know how anybody can say NA is weak.
Yeah, no, there's at this point, yeah, exactly. It's really almost a silly statement to make.
Seriously, yeah, like do. I don't know how anybody could ever say like SEA is better than NA. Like that just means you're not watching Dota.
Yeah, I agree there. All right, man. Thanks for coming on. And
yeah,
anything
man, it was
else?
fun talking. Thanks for the invite.
All right, no problem, man. Thanks for coming on.
All right, peace, dude. Have a good one.
All right, guys. So that is going to do it for the call-in there. That's all I got there, but that went well. That went well, guys. I want to thank both Jinx and whoever that was. I just came. All day also coming on there and joining me on the podcast, talking about some fun topics there, and I had some good discussions. But I think that is going to be the beginning of the end here. This on-the-fly editing wrap up. I think that's going to be the beginning of the end as far as things go here for the Breakdown podcast, though. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think it went very well overall, and I had a lot of fun. At least, hopefully, you guys enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully, you got some great content out of it, and I want to give a special thanks to CartDota, Peter Pandam, as well as Biver for joining me on the podcast as an interview guest and to talk about those specific topics that I had them on for. Really helped to make the show what it is. So, guys, this is the beginning of hopefully a great thing to come as far as content creation called The Breakdown, a Dota 2 podcast with BreakyCPK. Again, hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Once again, every Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2100 Central European Time. I plan to be here on the podcast. Looking forward to having some fun here with you guys. So be sure to see you next week. Sorry, I'm just doing some quick editing right here before we officially wrap up. Okay, so that is going to do it, though, for the Breakdown, guys. I will have this all on VOD. I'll also cut off some of the specific segments like the interviews and stuff. I know people may like that. But as far as the live podcast here, we are going to wrap things up. YouTube.com/BreakyCPK. Also, please, guys, for those that were around for that segment, the Pugna segment, again, if you like to sign up for the site, click that link that I just posted in chat right there, and go ahead and sign up for the site. Actually, they are supporting me via those sign-ups right there, so I would really appreciate you signing up if you choose to. Again, it's a great win for you as well if you're interested in getting better at Dota 2. They honestly have a great library of videos with players like Chessie, Fogged, just to name a couple, that do some great tutorials over there and help you become a better player. So check that out as well. But as far as the podcast goes here, guys, I think that that is going to officially do it here for tonight. So I want to thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Breakdown with BreakyCPK. I will see you next week. Have a good night, guys. Until then.